Chapter 115. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. Lin Chengye began to write vigorously. Feng Lin, who was in the back row, could not help but secretly laugh when he received the questions. When Xiao Lulang tutored Lin Chengye, he also listened in. Lin Chengye was afraid of Xiao Lulang, so he would sometimes take the exam papers for himself to look over. When he felt that there were no problems, he would then present it to Xiao Lulang. After a while, he also knew how to recite the book of filial piety. If not for the strict rules of the examination hall, Feng Lin would have wanted to hum a little tune. Just from this examination alone, the examiner's questions were not as difficult as Xiao Liulong's demonic difficulty. The other examinees were not as calm as the three of them. They did not expect that this year's examination questions would exceed their syllabus. It was going to kill them. However, the examinees who were able to enter the provincial examination all had relatively strong mental fortitude. Although they were roaring in their hearts, they still forced themselves to write. This year's heat was very strong. It was very hot when they came in yesterday, but it was not as hot as today. The examination shed was narrow and cramped, and there was no ventilation. Not long after the examination began, the examinees were sweating from the heat. Some daring examinees began to undress. Although it was damaging to their appearance, the examination hall's rules were that as long as you did not cheat, the examiners did not care if you shit or fart. At noon, the sun shone down from the sky and the temperature in the examination shed increased. All the examinees felt that they were being roasted on a metal plate. Finally, an examinee from the provincial capital fainted from heatstroke. This was a young master from a large family. He had not suffered much and was not like the poor students who often worked in the fields. Instead, he was able to withstand the heat. The examiner paid attention to his movements. It was best if he could wake up on his own. Otherwise, once he was carried out of the examination shed, he would not be able to return to the examination hall. After waiting for a while, the examiner still did not respond. The examiner could only call for the guards to carry him out to see a doctor. Just as the guards carried him to the entrance of the examination hall, he woke up. He cried and shouted that he wanted to go back to the examination hall. However, the examination hall's rules would not be broken for anyone, not even a prince. Therefore, the imperial examinations had extremely high requirements for the examinees in all aspects. Not only did the examinees need to have a strong mentality, but their physical fitness must also be good enough. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to withstand such a high-intensity examination. This small episode also created a huge psychological pressure on the rest of the examinees. Coupled with the fact that the weather was indeed getting hotter, everyone felt that their exam booth had become a huge furnace. At first, the examinees who refused to take off their clothes could no longer care about anything else. Not taking off their underwear was already the last bit of respect they could show to the examination hall. Xiao Lulang also felt the heat. If it was in the past, he would have fainted from the heat. However, for the past 6 months, Gu Jiao had dragged him to do the re-examination every day. Even when he went out for exams, she would ask Feng Lin to keep an eye on him. At first, he thought that everything she did was in vain because he could not get rid of the shadow in his heart. He could not stand up like a normal person. Only now did he realize that her efforts had not been in vain. His body had become much stronger. After another hour, the temperature in the examination shed reached its peak, and another 2 examinees fainted from the heat. All of the examinees were vexed and their minds were dizzy, unable to think properly. Xiao Lulang took off his outer clothes, but it was still not enough. His gaze suddenly landed on the bag by his hand. He opened the bag and took out the little green bottle that Gu Jiao had Feng Lin bring over. He rubbed a few drops on his temples and forehead. Instantly, a cool air spread from his forehead to his entire body. He instantly felt refreshed, and his ears and eyes became sharper. All of the heat in his body subsided at this moment. He calmed his heart and continued to write the questions. The weather was not so hot until the sun set. After the entire day of exams, the examinees were all paralyzed. It was not known whether it was because of the provincial examinations or because of the heat. Xiao Lulang, Feng Lin and Lin Chengye had it easier than the other examinees because they had Gu Jiao's magical medicine. During the day, everyone did not have much of an appetite. Now that it was cold, they finally remembered to eat. However, what made the examinees collapse was that the weather was too hot. The dry rations they had brought in had all gone bad. There was a faint rancid smell in the exam tent. The invigilators could not help but pinch their noses. But very quickly, a sweet and sour fruity fragrance floated over. It was oranges. Once the skin was peeled, a handful of orange-scented oil would splash out. It was extremely fresh. Rumble, some of the examinees' stomachs grumbled. Immediately after, everyone began to drool. The oranges were too fragrant. They were sour and sweet. Xiao Lulang ate an orange and took out a piece of jerky and a piece of pancake. The pancake and jerky had been baked dry, so they were not spoiled. The pickled vegetables were also not spoiled. He began to eat slowly and carefully. The fragrance of the meat and the pickled vegetables filled the entire exam hall. All of the examinees collapsed. The difficult exam questions and bad weather during the day were already torturous enough. Why did they still have to eat such fragrant food in the exam hall? Were they really here for the exam? Who would bring such a sumptuous meal for the exam? If it was not for the fact that whispering was prohibited in the exam hall, the examinees would have shouted, "Brother, give me a bite of your food. In the future, wherever you go, I will protect you." Misfortune never comes alone. In such hot weather, how could there be fewer mosquitoes at night? Xiao Lulang and the other two applied essential ointment and slept comfortably for the entire night. When the examinees, who had been swatting mosquitoes all night, walked out of the exam hall, the dark circles under their eyes were almost unbearable. Fortunately, on the day they left the exam hall, there was a heavy rain in the provincial capital. The weather finally turned cold. On the 11th day, the examinees entered the exam hall again. The second exam was on the 5 classics. It was a discussion essay. The word count for each essay was not high. It had to be no less than 300 words. In previous years, it was mainly about people's livelihood and official career. For example, the world's industry and commerce, water conservancy, agriculture, the division of the 6 ministries, and so on. But this year, it was on the pros and cons of removing the vassal state, which directly stunned the examinees. Which examiner was not afraid of death to come up with such a sharp and sensitive question? In the Zhao country, the provincial exam questions were set by the cabinet every year and then handed over to the emperor for review. Only after the emperor approved would the questions be sealed and sent to each major provincial capital. The questions issued by the imperial court were all the same. However, it did not rule out the possibility that some people or accidents were caused, such as leaking or destroying the questions. Therefore, the imperial court would usually prepare 8 sets of questions. During the exam, the main examiner would randomly draw questions in front of everyone. Up until now, there had not been a precedent of all the provincial capitals drawing the same set of questions. Unfortunately, the main examiner of the provincial capital drew the most difficult set of questions this year. Among the group of examinees, there were people like Xiao Lulang, who were taking the provincial exam for the first time. There were also people who had been taking the exam for most of their lives and whose hair had turned white. But anyone who had taken the exam many times could see that this year's questions were not simple. They did not follow the usual routine. Over the years, the examiners had their own preferences. When the examinees did the questions, they would do their best to cater to the examiner's preferences. This was also why every year, people would spend a lot of money to inquire about the examiner's origins and life stories. But the problem was that removing the vassal state was not an ordinary matter of people's livelihood. It could not be decided by the examiner's preferences. This mainly depended on the attitude of the imperial court. If the imperial court advocated removing the vassal state, then the examiner would definitely not give a paper that opposed removing the vassal state a high score. Otherwise, wouldn't the examiner be openly challenging the imperial court and the emperor? From the imperial court's recruitment of the Lin family, the examinees generally understood the imperial court's attitude toward the vassal state. At least for the next 10 years, it would be impossible to remove the vassal state. To be on the safe side, most examinees chose to cater to the imperial court's whims. They quoted classics, eloquently described the drawbacks of removing the vassal state, and vigorously advocated the imperial court's current appeasement policy. And in a certain examination shed, Xiao Lulang did not hesitate to write, "Removing the vassal state is imperative." The last exam was on the 14th. The exam would start on the 15th, and it would be on the 8-legged essay. This was Lin Qingye's weakest area. In the children's exam, he had never obtained a high score in the 8-legged essay. He had almost always relied on his essays to obtain the title of a scholar. However, this time, when he looked at the questions on the exam paper, he inexplicably felt that they were not as tricky as the questions that Xiao Lulang usually gave him. Moreover, Xiao Lulang taught him some 8-legged essay techniques and let him recite a few neat lines of flattery. There was no meaning, but it made the overall style of the essay look high-end and impressive. He wrote it smoothly and fluently. In short, it was hydrology. Lulang said, "If you don't understand hydrology, use hydrology. Don't leave it empty." Lin Qingye felt that his hydrology was very good this time. He didn't even understand what he wrote. Although he didn't get a high score, he probably wouldn't fail like before. After the 3 exams, the examinees had lost a lot of weight. Steward Zhou was waiting outside the examination courtyard early in the morning. Seeing the examinees come out one by one, he was worried to death about his 6th young master. Soon, Xiao Lulang and the other 2 came out. No matter how many people there were, Xiao Lulang was always the first to be noticed. Steward Zhou saw him first and then saw Lin Qingye beside him. Steward Zhou was about to shout, "Young master, you've lost weight," but then the words got stuck in his throat. Why did his young master seem to have gained weight? Actually, Lin Qingye wasn't fat, it was just that the other examinees had lost weight, making the 3 of them look fat. Steward Zhou quickly walked forward and asked excitedly and anxiously, "How was the exam, young master? You didn't let me come over for the previous 2 exams. I was so bored. Can you pass? Are the questions difficult? Why do I feel that everyone's expression is not good?" Lin Qingye said, "Later we'll talk." Steward Zhou looked at the examinees at the side and knew that he was too excited. How was this the place to talk? He smiled and said to Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin, "The exam is finally over. You 2 have worked hard during this period of time. My old master has set up a banquet in the residence. Please do me the honor and follow me to the residence for a chat." The Lin family was the richest family in the provincial capital, and Feng Lin wanted to go and see the world. Who knew that Xiao Lulang would reject him? "No, we are going back to the county. We appreciate old Master Lin's good intentions. We will meet again in the future." Lin Qingye and Steward Zhou were stunned at the same time. Especially Lin Qingye. Even though he had expected that Xiao Lulang would have to go back after the exam, but when it really came to this moment, he felt very reluctant. These days of tutoring with Xiao Lulang was the most miserable torture in his life, but when he entered the exam hall, he realized that it was his most precious experience. "You go later. I will send you." Lin Qingye was anxious and exposed his stuttering problem. His face changed, and a trace of panic flashed in his eyes. Xiao Liulong's face did not show any difference, and the eyes he looked at him with were as calm and cold as usual. "No, you have been away from home for so long, you should go back and take a look." Feng Lin was a little surprised. After reuniting with Xiao Lulang for so long, this was the first time he heard him say such humane words. Thinking carefully, he had changed a lot compared to a year ago. In the end, Lin Qingye was unable to persuade Xiao Lulang to go to his house. He could actually feel that he had a good teacher-student relationship with Xiao Lulang. Xiao Lulang was cold, but his heart was not cold. But he did not understand why Xiao Lulang was unwilling to go to his house. Steward Zhou smiled. "Sixth young master, Miss Biao is here. She said that you have worked hard in the provincial exam, and wants to take you out to play for a few days." Lin Qingye did not like that love-struck cousin. Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin returned to the inn. When they went upstairs, Feng Lin asked, "Do we have to wait for the results to come out before we leave?" "It would take half a month for the results to come out." Xiao Lulang calmly said, "No need, the results will be reported to the county office." "That's fine too." Feng Lin nodded. Even though he wanted to know his and Xiao Liulong's results as soon as possible, but Xiao Liulong's anxious look clearly showed that he was homesick. He missed Jiaonyang. Ha ha ha, stinky brat. The two were heading to the guest room when they heard the excited voices of the examinees coming from the main hall. "Hey, did you guys hear? The Imperial College is going to be reopened in the capital." "Really? Who told you? Is there a need to tell me?" "The Imperial notice has already been posted. It's at the entrance of the government office. If you don't believe me, go take a look for yourself. Students with excellent results will have the opportunity to enter the Imperial College after being recommended by the government office. If you get first place in the provincial exam, you will be able to move to the Imperial College without a recommendation." Students were Xiuzai. Generally speaking, the Junior 3 Yuan would have the opportunity to be recommended. If there were no Junior 3 Yuan, even if you got first place, you would still have the opportunity. Feng Lin pulled Xiao Liulong's sleeve. "Lu Lang, you got 2 first places." Even though he had missed the first place in the college exam due to some reason, he was still an outstanding student. Feng Lin slapped his thigh and said, If you had known, you wouldn't have asked for that 1,000 taels of silver. No matter what, you should have taken the exam again. If you get into the Junior 3 Yuan, you will definitely be able to enter the Imperial College." The Imperial College was the highest educational institution in Zhao country. All the students in the world would be proud to enter the Imperial College. Xiao Liulong's expression was very calm. He stood on the stairs and listened to the heated discussions of the examinees in the main hall. But wasn't the Imperial College closed by His Majesty himself? Because the young Chancellor was burned to death. Why did it suddenly reopen? It was Imperial Tutor Zhuang who led many important officials to kneel outside the throne room. They kneeled for 3 days and 3 nights before His Majesty finally moved. Imperial Tutor Zhuang is really a loyal official of Zhao country. When His Majesty ordered the Imperial College to be closed, anyone who tried to persuade him was punished by His Majesty. Imperial Tutor Zhuang wasn't punished, right? The examinees didn't want such a good official who served the country and the people to get into trouble. How could that be? If he was punished, he wouldn't have reopened the Imperial College. The examinees discussed heatedly with each other. Xiao Lulang revealed a suspicious and thoughtful expression. He quickly lost the mood to listen to the gossip and returned to his room expressionlessly. Lin Chengye's things had already been taken away by Steward Zhou. Xiao Lulang only packed his own things. Steward Zhou had already paid for the inn's food and lodging, so the two of them didn't need to fork out any more money. At night, Feng Lin wanted to eat the famous snacks in the provincial capital. "After coming here for so long, in order to not get a stomachache, I ate all the food made in the small kitchen. I've been holding it in for so long," Feng Lin said, feeling wronged. When he accompanied Xiao Lulang to the prefectural city for the exam, Feng Lin had eaten something on the way and had gotten a stomachache. Although he had Gu Jiao's anti-diarrheal medicine, he had still been frightened. The provincial examination was no small matter. In order to avoid repeating the same mistakes, they had been avoiding certain foods. Xiao Lulang just happened to want to buy something for his family and agreed to Feng Lin's request. The streets of the provincial capital were wide and long. Even if 4 carriages were to drive side by side, it wouldn't be crowded at all. The shops on both sides of the road were lined up in rows and the pedestrians walked shoulder to shoulder. It was truly a bustling scene. Feng Lin looked at the lanterns in the vendor's hand and said enviously, "The provincial capital is really lively. It's much more lively than our county city. Even the prefectural city isn't this lively." Xiao Lulang grunted in acknowledgement, which could be considered a response. Feng Lin said longingly, "What do you think the capital is like?" "The provincial capital is already so lively. Will the capital be even more lively? Will the streets in the capital be wider and longer? More carriages? And the shops are bigger?" Yes. Xiao Lulang made another sound of acknowledgement. Feng Lin said strangely, "What do you mean by yes? You're making it seem like you've been there before." Sigh, I really want to go to the capital. I even dream of going there. As long as I can go there once, I can die without regrets. Xiao Lulang said indifferently, "What's so good about the capital? It's just a place of trouble." Feng Lin sighed and shook his head. "You don't have any aspirations. You don't understand. The Imperial College was the holy land for all scholars. If Feng Lin only had a 60% chance of going to the capital in the past, now he had a 100% chance. If he could go to the Imperial College once in his life, he wouldn't have studied hard for more than 10 years in vain. However, he knew his own limitations. With his aptitude, he wouldn't be able to pass the exam and wouldn't be recommended by the prefectural government. The specialties of the provincial capital were sesame sugar and donkey meat. Feng Lin wasn't interested in sugar, but he craved donkey meat. The two of them went to an old donkey meat shop and ordered 2 bowls of donkey meat soup, 2 donkey meat roasts, and a small bowl of braised donkey meat. As the saying goes, donkey meat is fragrant and horse meat stinks. No one would eat donkey meat even if they were beaten to death. As long as the donkey meat was cooked well, its fragrance would fill the entire street. Feng Lin couldn't wait to try the braised donkey meat. Wow, it's delicious. Xiao Lulang was used to Gu Jiao's cooking and Shi Yi felt that the donkey meat was delicious. After eating, the two of them called for the waiter to settle the bill. However, they were told that someone had already paid for them. Who? Feng Lin asked. Could it be Lin Qingye? That can't be right. Didn't that fellow return to the residence? Why did he sneak out so quickly? He even followed them to the donkey meat shop? He didn't eat at the same table as them and only paid the bill in secret? The waiter smiled and said, "It's a master with the surname Lu." Xiao Liulong's face turned cold. Feng Lin looked at Xiao Lulang. "Do you know him?" Xiao Lulang said calmly, "I don't know him." The waiter smiled again and said, "Master Lu said that he has set up a small banquet at the Drunken Cloud restaurant to entertain Master Xiao and your friends. He sincerely hopes that Master Xiao will do him the honor." "Ah, I was wondering what was going on. So it's another master who wants to get to know you." Xiao Liulong's 8-legged essay in the prefectural examination was too outstanding. Along the way, there were many people who wanted to get to know him. Feng Lin naturally thought that this Master Lu was one of them. "Are you going?" Feng Lin asked. "No." Xiao Lulang stood up. "Let's go back to the inn." Oh. The two of them went to the inn to stay the night. The next day, they planned to go to the carriage shop to hire a good carriage. When they arrived at the entrance, they saw a man dressed as a waiter waiting outside with a smile. "Are you Master Xiao and Master Feng? My master has prepared a carriage to send you two back to the county." "Who is your master?" Feng Lin asked. "My master's surname is Lu," the waiter replied. Feng Lin muttered, "It can't be the one from yesterday, right?" Feng Lin glanced at the other side's carriage. Good fellow, it was even more luxurious than the Lin family's carriage. This Master Lu's background was not small. "I'm not sitting." Xiao Lulang refused without thinking. Feng Lin, great, talented and willful. The two of them hired the fastest carriage and spent twice as much silver as the other carriages. Without stopping, they headed in the direction of the county. Lin Qingye left the Lin family early in the morning. He planned to send Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin off, but in the end, there was nothing. He sighed. He didn't know if he would see them again in this life. After the provincial examination, the inner curtain officials began to grade the papers. There were a total of 12 inner curtain officials in groups of 4. Each paper was graded by 4 inner curtain officials. If there was not much difference in opinion, the total score would be calculated. If there was too much controversy, it would be presented to the chief examiner and the deputy chief examiner for them to decide again. The first test was the 3 classics and the 5 characters and 8 rhymed poems. The chief examiner was the correct rate and handwriting. In previous years, there were either high correct rates but poor handwriting, or excellent handwriting but not as good as another examinee. This year's situation was a bit special. There was an examinee who turned in a perfect answer sheet. Not only was the question not bad, but his handwriting made everyone feel ashamed of their inferiority. He deserved to be the first in the first test. This year's The Classic of Filial Piety stumped many examinees. An inner curtain official sighed with a smile. Except for the one just now, I haven't seen a second examinee who wrote The Classic of Filial Piety correctly. Wait a minute. As soon as he finished speaking, he found another very excellent answer sheet. Although it was not all wrong, it was much better than the previous one. Especially, The Classic of Filial Piety, he wrote it all correctly. The inner curtain official across from him said, "What a coincidence, I also have someone who wrote The Classic of Filial Piety correctly." The two looked at each other and smiled. This year's examinees unexpectedly made people surprised. But when they read the second test, the atmosphere became tense. The vassal kings had always been a big problem for the imperial court. They were either powerful dragons that had once occupied a region and had been given the title of vassal king by the imperial court, or they were feudal princes with royal blood. The former had military power, the latter had royal blood, so they were definitely a big problem. As the saying goes, how could one allow others to sleep beside one's bed? It was just that the imperial court did not have enough power to get rid of these vassal kings, so most of the officials in the imperial court did not advocate removing the vassal kings. Xian Ping Marquis Fu had always been at odds with Grand Tutor Zhuang, but on the matter of removing the vassal kings, the two families' opinions were surprisingly consistent. No one knew that this time's test questions had been set by the emperor himself. The emperor had wanted to listen to the voices of the people and see what kind of foresight and temperament the students of the Zhao country under his rule had. The result was a lot of flattery. But in this pile of flattery, there was one with outstanding literary talent. Although he did not advocate removing the vassal kings, he was not pandering to the winds of the imperial court. Instead, he analyzed the possible consequences of removing the vassal kings in the short term from the current situation of the entire Zhao country and how to obtain a win-win situation from the economy and agriculture under the pacification policy. This was an article that stunned all the inner curtain officials. If there were no accidents, the first place of the second test would be this article. But very quickly, an examiner found another article that advocated removing the vassal kings. The words used were so sharp that the inner curtain officials' faces turned white. Why didn't this guy just go to the throne room and scold the emperor and the civil and military officials? But, although he scolded fiercely, the reasoning behind his analysis could not be found wrong at all. Originally, when they had read that article, they had felt that it was a win-win situation or a new way out for both sides. But after reading this article that advocated removing the vassal kings, they instantly felt that they were asking a tiger for its skin. If the vassal kings were not removed, the Zhao country would be finished. The deputy head examiner wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. He suddenly felt that the Zhao country was surrounded by danger. Was the Zhao country really in danger right now? Not really. It was just that this might not be the case in a few decades. This examinee had contained all the dangers in a few decades into a small discussion of the Tao, letting everyone personally feel the consequences and fear of not removing the vassal kings. This person's skill could be seen at a glance. In terms of literary attainment and writing skills, this examinee had won. The problem was, did they dare to give this kind of alarmist and even rebellious article the title of first place? If this was exposed to the emperor, who could bear the anger of the Son of Heaven? The emperor only wanted to see the thoughts of the examinees. He didn't really want to hear anyone scold him. The inner curtain officials hesitated. First put it to one side. The head examiner said. Once it was put to one side, it was put to one side for a long time. Even after the 8-part essay for the third test had been edited, they still hadn't decided which of the two articles would be first. Digression. A wave of prize-winning questions and answers. Will Lu Lang be first in the provincial examination? A. Yes. B. No, the newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels to read for free. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428115171389. HTML Genius. Remember this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Gur mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 116. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Xiao Lulang hired the fastest carriage and arrived at Clear Spring Town at the end of August. When they passed by Sky Fragrance Academy, Feng Lin first moved his luggage back to his dormitory. When he came out, he bumped into Principal Li. Principal Li was surprised to see him. How come you're so fast? Didn't you go to the provincial examination? Did you not make it or something? Where's Lulang? I made it. We came back right after the examination. I'll tell you the details later. Lulang is waiting for me outside. See you, Principal. Feng Lin laughed dryly and ran away. Who didn't know that Xiao Lulang was Principal Li's precious child? If he didn't run away quickly, Principal Li would ask him all sorts of questions. Feng Lin jumped onto the carriage. What's the matter? Xiao Lulang asked. Principal Li. Feng Lin said, don't let him catch you. If he asks you, you won't be able to go home. Xiao Lulang agreed and urged the coachman to hurry back to the village. The money for the carriage had already been paid in the provincial capital. However, the coachman had followed them all the way and worked as a coachman and a servant. It was really hard work. Xiao Lulang gave him 1 tael of silver. The coachman was flattered and hurriedly bowed. Be careful on the road, Xiao Lulang said. Hey. Thank you, young Master Xiao. The coachman happily got on the carriage. People in their line of work were paid for their hard work. Even though they had been gone for more than a month, they only had 2 or 3 taels of silver in their hands. With this 1 tael, their family's life would be much better next month. Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin walked into the village. When they left the village at the end of June, the late rice had just been planted. There were only sparse rice seedlings, but now they were all green. Wow! Your village's wheat is growing really well. This year's weather was abnormal. There was little rain and the fields were dry, causing many crops to die from drought. They had walked all the way from the provincial capital and witnessed it with their own eyes. They were shocked. However, the crops in Qingchuan village didn't seem to be affected by the drought. They were growing healthily. It's rice. Xiao Lulang corrected him, but the same doubt flashed through his mind. Why did the crops in his village grow so well? Oh, Feng Lin replied and suddenly pointed to the front. Look. Canals. Not bad, your village has even dug a canal. It's really different with Li Zheng around. After old Master Gu stepped down, the village elected a new village chief. Second Uncle Luo was a relative of the clan. It was said that he was almost 5 generations old. However, because they lived close to each other, the 2 families often interacted with each other, so their relationship was still considered close. Luo Lizheng was not as cultured as old Master Gu, but he was a practical man. If any of the villagers in the village were in trouble, he would lend a helping hand. But when it came to digging a canal, it wasn't that Xiao Lulang looked down on Luo Lizheng, but they were all neighbors. After interacting with each other for so long, Xiao Lulang knew what Luo Lizheng knew and did not. He was a relatively conservative village chief. He wouldn't easily carry out large-scale construction. Moreover, the village didn't have the money to carry out large-scale construction. Hey! Lulang! Feng Lin, who was at the side, called out again. Look! Water wheels! Oh my God! Am I seeing things? Your village actually has a water wheel. The number of times Feng Lin had seen a water wheel in his life could be counted on one hand. Water wheels were good things. They could divert water from lower areas to higher areas. It was best used to irrigate the fields. However, water wheels were rare in this kind of small county. Usually, only the wealthier villages had water wheels. On their way back from the provincial capital, they had seen water wheels a few times. However, because of the drought, the village's ponds had run out of water, so the water wheels had become mere decorations. Feng Lin didn't understand. Speaking of which, where did your village get the water? Xiao Liulong's gaze followed the canal all the way to the back mountain of second Uncle Luo's house. He frowned and muttered, "Did they use the waterfall on the mountain?" That was no ordinary canal. It spanned half a mountain and required a lot of manpower and resources to dig it. Not only that, but they also needed to be very familiar with the terrain of the mountain. Oh my! Lu Lang is back. It was Aunt Zhang. Aunt Zhang had just come out of second Uncle Luo's house with a basket of wild fruits in her hands. She felt that her family was in luck. Every time Xiao returned from his exams, the first person he saw was her. Aunt Zhang. Xiao Lulang greeted her. Aunt Zhang. Feng Lin also greeted her with a smile. Aunt Zhang already recognized Chief Feng Lin when he came to the village. She smiled and said, "You're finally back. This time you were gone longer than last time. The provincial capital is very far away." People in the countryside didn't know the date of the exams and the release of the results. They didn't know that Xiao Lulang was actually the first one to return home. They only thought that he had been away for a month longer than last time. Xiao Lulang didn't explain anything and said, "Yes, the provincial capital is farther than the prefectural capital. I walked for half a month longer than last time." I knew it. Aunt Zhang had an "I'm very smart" look on her face. Okay, you've been away for so many days. You must be thinking about Jiaonyang. Hurry back, she's here. Today was Tianxiong Academy's holiday, but the private school wasn't. Gu Xiaoshun went to town to take care of the two babies. Gu Jiao was working at home. Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin entered the house. The first person they saw wasn't Gu Jiao, but a man dressed like a farmer. The two of them were stunned. The man heard movement at the door and turned around. His eyes lit up. "Lulang? This is Scholar Feng, right?" Feng Lin stared blankly. I am. You are Luo Lijing." Xiao Lulang greeted him. Luo Lijing scratched his head and smiled. Feng Lin suddenly realized. "You're the newly appointed Li Zheng? You're really amazing. You dug the canal and made the water wheel. All the crops in the village have been revived by you." Luo Lijing stared blankly at first, then smiled honestly. "Scholar Feng, you're mistaken. The one who dug the canal wasn't me, and the one who made the water wheel wasn't me." Feng Lin's face was full of surprise. "If it wasn't you, then who was it?" Xiao Lulang had a vague guess in his heart. He subconsciously looked towards the back door of the central room. Coincidentally, Gu Jiao entered the central room while wiping her hands. When she saw Xiao Lulang, her steps paused. She knew when the provincial examination would end and when the results would be released. She estimated that Xiao Lulang would only return after the results were released. She didn't expect him to return so soon. Her stunned expression was a little naturally dazed. Xiao Lulang felt his heart tremble uncontrollably. He calmly shifted his gaze away and greeted Luo Lijing. Luo Lijing was confused. Didn't he just greet him? Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Lulang and unconsciously curved her lips. "Why are you back so soon? Why didn't you stay in the provincial capital to play for a few more days?" Xiao Lulang lightly said, "There's nothing fun in the provincial capital." Gu Jiao, "Oh." Luo Lijing smiled. "I was just talking about you. Feng Xiucai asked me if I dug the canal and made the water wheel. Haha, how could I have such ability?" As he spoke, he said to Feng Lin, "It's Jiaonyang." Ah. Feng Lin was dumbfounded. Gu Jiao opened up the mountain to plant herbs and even dug a fish pond. When the water from the waterfall entered the fish pond, she also dug a canal to the village. The weather was dry and the waterfall on the mountain was much smaller, but it was still enough to irrigate the farmland in the village. Xiao Lulang looked deeply at Gu Jiao. It can't be. You've only been gone for 2 months and you even dug a fish pond? Feng Lin knew about Gu Jiao buying a mountain, but he didn't expect Gu Jiao to be so swift and decisive. Luo Lijing said to Gu Jiao, "That's right, I went to the village's carpenters to make the wooden cart for threshing and transporting the grains that you told us about last time. But they couldn't make it so quickly. They told me to ask you, what kind of wood is better?" Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "Red pine, poplar, sandalwood, or basswood are all good. They are hard and not easy to deform." "Okay. Then I'll go first," Luo Lijing said and turned to congratulate Xiao Lulang and Feng Lin in advance, wishing them good results in the provincial examination. "What's a cart for threshing and transporting the grains?" Feng Lin asked curiously. Gu Jiao explained, "It's a cart that can separate the grains from the ears of the rice, as well as a cart that can filter out the grains that aren't full enough, leaving only the normal grains." "There's such a thing?" Feng Lin expressed his doubt. Although he couldn't distinguish wheat fields from rice fields, he still knew how to remove the grains. It was to grab a bundle of rice and smash it on the ground with brute force. Not to mention the trouble of smashing, one might not even be able to remove all the grains. The grains that were not removed had to be carefully plucked by hand. When he was young, he had picked grains for others for half a copper coin a day. As for separating the grains from the good grains, it was usually done by drying the grains under the sun and picking a windy day to raise the grains. The good grains were heavier and would fall to the ground. The grains were lighter and would be blown to the side by the wind. After pounding the rice, they would also use the method of raising the grains to separate the rice from the husks. The grain-raising cart that Gu Jiao asked people to make was the same as the grain-raising cart. It could separate the grains from the bad grains and could also separate the rice from the husks. The only difference was that the grain-raising cart was more efficient, less laborious, and more thorough. Originally, Luo Lijing didn't believe that there was such a useful thing, but after seeing Gu Jiao dig the canals and make the water wheel for the villagers, Luo Lijing believed in her ability and character without any doubt. In the evening, Gu Yan and his 2 brothers arrived home. Little Jing Kong's eyelids had been twitching since noon. When he entered the house and saw his bad brother-in-law, he finally understood why his eyelids had been twitching for the whole afternoon. He walked into the house and looked at his bad brother-in-law with a serious face. Well, he didn't lose weight. He didn't need to worry about Jiao Jiao. He pulled Xiao Lulang to the backyard and asked Xiao Lulang to pick the dates from the jujube tree for him. Xiao Lulang looked up at the branches and said, "It's almost September. Where are the dates?" Little Jing Kong stared at the top of Xiao Liulong's head. He had strictly recorded his bad brother-in-law's height before, and he could barely reach the first branch. Now, his bad brother-in-law had already surpassed the branch. His bad brother-in-law had grown taller. In fact, in the past 2 months, according to his strict observation, not only had his bad brother-in-law grown taller, brother Gu Yan and brother Xiaoshan had also grown taller. Even Jiao Jiao had grown taller. The only ones in the family who hadn't changed were him and his great-aunt. Jiao Jiao said that it was because he was still young. But Go Hua was even younger than him. Go Hua had grown taller. Little Jing Kong frowned miserably. "What's wrong with you?" Xiao Lulang looked at him and asked. "Sigh, nothing. Let's not talk about me." Little Jing Kong sighed like a little adult. He looked up at Xiao Lulang seriously and said, "Let's talk about you. How did you do in the exam? Were the questions difficult? Are you confident? If you don't pass, the family will have to support you for another 3 years." Xiao Lulang didn't expect that he could avoid Dean Li, but not the little monk. What kind of elder's tone was this? "You still know that the exam is held once every 3 years. Xiao Lulang was annoyed and amused at the little boy's buzz cut. He passed a red date to him and said, "Here, take it and play with it." Little Jing Kong looked at the shriveled dates in his hand and curled his lips. Who wants to play with it? Childish. Xiao Liulong's family brought gifts. The old lady's gift was sesame candy and soybean pudding. The old lady was very happy. Gu Jiao confiscated the sesame candy. She could only eat one piece of soybean pudding a day. The old lady was not happy. Gu Yen brought an inkstone made of jade. It was round. He liked things that were round, especially those made of jade. Gu Yen said, "Thank you, brother-in-law." Little Jing Kong received a set of 9 rings. Little Jing Kong took it with a proud face. He said, "What? Childish." Then he turned around and hid in the room. He started to open the 9 rings secretly. Gu Xiaoshan received a few pieces of high-quality wood for carving. He didn't lack tools now, but he lacked good wood for carving. "Brother-in-law, what kind of wood is this? I've never seen it before." Gu Xiaoshan weighed a piece of black wood in his hand and asked. "Ebony." Xiao Lulang said. Ebony was not from the Zhao kingdom. It was shipped from the Qing kingdom. They were lucky to meet a caravan on the way. They were very satisfied with their gifts. Finally, it was Gu Jiao's turn. Gu Jiao thought that he couldn't give her a writing brush this time. In the end, Xiao Lulang did not give her a writing brush. Instead, he gave her a stack of paper. Gu Jiao was speechless. This was not the coarse paper sold in the market. It was a very expensive water-patterned paper. When it was exposed to light, curtain patterns, bamboo patterns, or other patterns would appear. Therefore, it was also called pattern paper. Patterned paper was complicated and expensive. It was not even sold in the prefectural city. It could only be found in the provincial capital. In the Zhao kingdom, giving pattern paper was equivalent to giving flowers. Under the moonlight, a beautiful woman would add fragrance to the flowers. However, Gu Jiao's smile froze on her face. The old lady, whose sesame candy was confiscated, laughed until she was convulsing. There was a kind of romance that Lu Lang thought was very romantic. Feng Lin also brought some things. There were a few pieces of smoked donkey meat and a bottle of Shadozi wine. The Shadozi wine was a gift from the shop. Gu Jiao had never drunk ancient wine. It did not seem too strong. She tasted it twice. She did not have any reaction during dinner. When she was washing the dishes, the wine kicked in. Xiao Lulang first sent Feng Lin to the village entrance. Then, he came back to give little Jing Kong a bath. When he went to the kitchen to find Gu Jiao had already thrown the half-washed dishes into the pot. She was sitting on the doorsill at the back door of the central room. Her back was facing Xiao Lulang. She was motionlessly looking at the starry sky. Xiao Lulang walked over and asked, "What are you looking at?" Gu Jiao slowly turned her head. Her expression was blank and wooden. Her small face was flushed red. Her big eyes were moist and sparkling. Her appearance was different from her usual cold and aloof self. It was as if she had turned into a child in an instant, looking especially innocent. "Looking at the stars," she said. Her voice was soft, with a hint of muddle-headedness. Xiao Lulang took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He said, "Let's go back to the house. It's dark." "I'm not going back." She shook her head and pouted. Well, little Jing Kong was usually like this. She had drunk so much that she looked like she was 3 years old. Gu Jiao continued to look up at the stars. "Lu Lang," she suddenly said. Digression. Yesterday's prize-winning quiz gave out prizes on the 6th. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/115135349. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, M. ZHHBQG. Come. Chapter 117. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. It was the first time she called him that. She used to call him husband, but it wasn't an intimate way of calling him husband and wife. It was more like she called him by his official position in the family because she didn't want to call him by his name. It was the same as when he called Gu Lijing or Luo Lijing. Xiao Lulang sat down beside her. Gu Jiao looked at the endless starry sky and asked, "Do you know why the stars in the sky don't fall down?" Xiao Lulang looked at her and asked, "Why?" Gu Jiao said with a silly smile, "Because they are too far away. They all have their own positions and trajectories." It was the first time Xiao Lulang had heard this, so he asked, "If they are really too far away, why can we see them?" "Because they are big." Gu Jiao raised her hand. She couldn't move her hand because of the alcohol. "They look small, but they are all very, very big. Do you know what kind of star that is?" "Which one?" Xiao Lulang asked. "That one." Gu Jiao pointed at the star to him. In order to let him see it more clearly, she moved her hand in front of his eyes. This movement made her soft body stick to his shoulder. Xiao Lulang froze. "Do you see it?" Gu Jiao asked drunkenly. Xiao Lulang responded absent-mindedly. The fragrance of the young girl penetrated his nose and disturbed his thoughts. Gu Sansui, the initiator, didn't know anything about it. She whispered in his ear, "Do you know what star that is?" "I'll only tell you. You can't tell anyone else. It's Venus. You people here call it Chang'e star." Her breath carried small circles of heat that landed on his earlobe. He didn't hear a single word she said. He only felt his ears burning. Gu Sansui pinched his earlobe. "Huh? What happened to your ears? So red. Is it hot?" As she spoke, she actually pursed her lips and blew on them for him. Xiao Lulang shuddered when her fingertips were slightly cold. He had thought that this was already torturous enough, but who would have thought that she would make it worse? "Gu Jiao." Xiao Lulang grabbed her hand and forced her to sit up straight. "Stop fooling around. I'm a man." "I know. No, you're not a man yet. You're not even 18 yet. You can't be considered a real man. You're still a child." Gu Jiao groaned and waved her hand. Xiao Lulang looked at her dangerously. "Do you want me to prove to you that I'm not a man?" His words were full of threat, but Gu Sizhui wasn't scared at all. Instead, he stared at him blankly and said seriously, "Lulang, you're so handsome." Xiao Lulang took a deep breath and said, "You've drunk too much. Let me help you back to your room." Gu Jiao mumbled, "I haven't washed the dishes yet." Xiao Lulang said, "Let me wash them." Gu Jiao said, "Okay." Xiao Lulang helped Gu Jiao up. With one hand on the crutch and the other on her arm, he helped her back to her room. Lying on the soft bed, she kicked off her shoes and stared at him with wide eyes. "Lulang, I really want to go out and have a look." Xiao Lulang had intended to ask her where she wanted to go when she was so drunk, but he realized that the go out she was talking about was probably not going out the door. "Where do you want to go?" he asked while looking at her. Gu Jiao let out a bitter laugh and lowered her eyes to look at the distant starry sky. "I don't know. I've been here for so long, but the farthest place I've been is the hot spring villa." "Come here." Was her mouth really muddled? Did she forget that she was born and raised in Qingchuan village? Gu Jiao rested her chin on her hand and asked, "What's outside the county?" Xiao Lulang thought for a moment and said, "The big counties, prefectural cities, and provincial capitals. Also, the capital." Gu Jiao laughed mischievously. "Then I want to go to the big counties, prefectural cities, and provincial capitals." "You don't want to go to the capital?" Xiao Lulang stared at her. At this moment, Gu Jiao still had a trace of reason left. She remembered that he didn't want to set foot in the capital. She smiled drunkenly and waved her hand. I don't want to go. What's so good about the capital? It's enough to go to other places. If I go back one day, I can brag about it to people. Xiao Lulang looked at her strangely, waiting for her to explain these strange words. However, she tilted her head and hugged his hand, snoring softly. The feeling of having a hangover was not good. When Gu Jiao woke up, it was already late in the morning. Her head still hurt. The moment she sat up, she felt that her head was going to explode. In her previous life, she wouldn't get drunk even if she drank 1,000 or 10,000 cups. This body was too weak. 1 cup was enough to burn a knife. Gu Jiao endured the headache and opened the small medicine box. At the top of the box was a box of hangover medicine. How did you know I was drunk? Gu Jiao weakly took the medicine and patted the small medicine box. This is the most considerate you've ever been. The small medicine box was as quiet as a chicken. Gu Jiao dressed neatly. After the hangover, her body was more than a little sluggish. She picked up her shoes 3 times and dropped them on the ground twice. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Who is it? Gu Jiao asked. Shivering, dog, doll. It was Go Wa's voice. Then, it was Xue Ningxiang's voice. Sure, don't disturb Zhao Nyong's sleep. Go Wa was taken away by Xue Ningxiang. She guessed that she overslept and no one made breakfast. Grandma Bai didn't eat Xiao Liulong's dark cuisine, so she called Xue Ningxiang over. After Gu Jiao dressed neatly, she sat on the bed dizzily for a while before she opened the door and walked out. Grandma Bai, Gu Xiaoshun, and Gu Yen sat upright at the table in the central room. When they heard the sound of the door opening, they all looked at her in unison. Great Aunt, Gu Jiao greeted. Her gaze fell on Gu Yen and Gu Xiaoshun's faces. Is the private school and the academy on holiday today? Why didn't the 2 of you go to school? Where are your brother-in-law and little Jing Kong? The 2 of them didn't speak. They just looked at her with a serious face. Are you okay? Grandma Bai asked suspiciously. I'm fine. What's wrong? Gu Jiao said. The 3 of them exchanged glances with each other. Gu Xiaoshun whispered, usually, those who say they're not drunk, are drunk. Usually, those who say they're fine. Gu Yen said expressionlessly, they're all crazy. Grandma Bai and Gu Xiaoshun nodded in unison. It's so early in the morning. Gu Jiao looked at the 3 of them strangely. Then, she went to the kitchen to find something to eat. Little Jing Kong was squatting under the jujube tree to clean the chicken poop. He didn't see Gu Jiao walking behind him. Gu Jiao went into the kitchen. Xiao Lulang was making hangover soup. It was made with pea sprouts and added a little salt. It was a folk recipe for hangover. Morning, Gu Jiao said. Xiao Lulang looked at her quietly. He added a ladle of water into the pot and said, You're awake? Yes. Gu Jiao rubbed her dizzy temples. She suddenly remembered that she went to see the stars in the middle of washing the dishes last night. She couldn't remember what happened after that. I drank too much yesterday. I didn't do anything strange, did I? She asked casually. Obviously, she had full confidence in her alcohol tolerance. Xiao Lulang looked at her with a complicated expression. In the yard, Jing Kong finished cleaning up the last pile of chicken poop. He carried a bucket to water the pea sprouts that he planted in the vegetable field. He hummed and sang while watering, I have a donkey, I never ride it. One day, I rode it to the market on a whim. Gu Jiao's brain exploded. An unbearable memory flashed through her mind. She was standing on a high bed. Xiao Lulang was standing in front of her with a serious face. She had a pair of shoelaces tied to her head. She was holding a small belt in her hand. She twisted it and sang to Xiao Lulang. I'm holding a small leather whip in my hand and I'm proud of it. I don't know why I fell down and was covered in mud. Little brother, I fell down. I need a kiss before I can get up. Sitting like a duck, tilting its head to kill. Cute. Gu Jiao staggered. She felt as if there were 10,000 arrows in her heart. Little Jing Kong finished watering the pea sprouts and started watering the soybean sprouts. Then he changed the song he was singing. I'm the Mount Tai next door, hold on to the vines of love, listen to me. In her mind, she lifted Liolong's chin and sang. You're the beautiful Jenny, hold my hand and wander around the capital. Don't be afraid of my Lulang. Gu Jiao's legs went soft. She supported herself on the stove. She was so drunk, but she still knew how to change the lyrics. Gu Jiao's heart was filled with arrows. Her legs went soft and she supported herself on the stove. That's it. That's it? Gu Jiao waited in fear for little Jing Kong's follow-up song. She waited for a long time, but there was no response. That's it, that's it, that's it. However, little Jing Kong started singing before she could breathe a sigh of relief. He was building up his emotions just now. The next song required him to put in a very sorrowful mood. This was a very difficult task for a 3-year-old child. He held a small bucket in one hand and looked forward solemnly. He raised a small ladle with his other hand. True love is as vast as the grassland, layers upon layers, wind and rain cannot stop us. There will always be a day when the clouds part, the sun shines on you and me. Gu Jiao's mind was filled with images again. She jumped down from the bed halfway through the song and looked at Xiao Lulang affectionately. Snowflakes fluttering in the north wind, heaven and earth are vast plum blossoms in winter standing proudly in the snow, only for the fragrance of my lover love my love without any complaints or regrets. The song was not finished yet. Xiao Lulang turned around and left, but she sat on the ground and hugged his thigh. She started to wail and howl, love even in death, I won't be happy if I don't fully express my feelings. Love even in death, I won't be happy if I don't cry until I smile, the heart of the universe is still there. Gu Jiao was in a bad mood. It was worse than walking 2 streets and only realizing that she forgot to wear her underwear. Xiao Lulang looked at her and said, the hangover soup is ready. Gu Jiao said awkwardly, no, I'm awake. But it was better not to wake up. Gu Jiao did not know how she got back to her room. She opened the medicine box and rummaged through it. Amnesia pills, knock, knock. Knock. There was a knock on the door. I'm not in. Gu Jiao stuck her head into the medicine box. Xiao Lulang, who saw this scene through the crack in the door, was speechless. Xiao Lulang cleared his throat and said seriously, I'm going to the county office. The enrollment documents for the Imperial College have been sent out to all the counties. There's a recommendation for each county. I'm going to see if there's any news from the county office. He was the top scorer in the county. If there were no accidents, the recommendation would be his. Gu Jiao pulled her head out of the medicine box. There was still a box of hangover medicine on her forehead. She asked in a daze, you want to study at the Imperial College? The Imperial College in the capital? Xiao Lulang said, yes, there's only one Imperial College in the country of Zhao. Why are you suddenly... You want to go to the capital? Before she could finish her question, she suddenly stopped talking. Don't you know why this happened? You've been crazy for a whole night. You don't want me to be scared out of my wits? Gu Jiao said, I'll go with you. Xiao Lulang said, okay. By the time Gu Jiao finished washing up and changed her clothes, no one could tell anything was wrong when she came out of the house. She had regained her calm expression. The old lady, Gu Yan, and Gu Shaoshun stared at her for a long time, but they could not see anything. Gu Jiao said lightly, you guys, you're not allowed to skip school. Go get your school bags. Okay. Gu Shaoshun nodded. This was his elder sister. His elder sister was back. Gu Yan also nodded and went to the room to get their school bags. When little Jing Kong heard that Jiao Jiao was going to take them to school, he happily walked out with his school bags. Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao patted his little head. Last night, there was only one person in the family who was not frightened by Gu Jiao, and that was little Jing Kong. In his eyes, Jiao Jiao did not do anything strange. The way he looked at Jiao Jiao was also the same as usual. Gu Jiao was very gratified. However, it turned out that she was gratified too early. A group of people sat in second Uncle Luo's ox cart. Little Jing Kong sat next to Gu Jiao. The autumn air was refreshing and the cool breeze was blowing. Everyone in the cart tacitly chose to lose their memories. Only little Jing Kong raised his head and looked at Gu Jiao seriously. "Jiao Jiao, the song you sang last night was really nice. I learned all of it." He was clearly touching on her sore spot. Gu Jiao, who was poked inside out, was speechless. Little Jing Kong patted his chest and said, "I'll sing Jiao Jiao every day from now on." Gu Jiao imagined the horrible scene of being dominated by little Jing Kong's magical singing. Gu Jiao, strike her with lightning. Digression, 3-year-old Gu's karaoke songs, Little Mouse Stove, Tarzan Next Door, A Cut of Plum, Love Even After Death. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/826428826/115131900. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 118. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang first sent their 3 younger brothers to Qianxiang Academy and the private school, then the 2 of them went to the Yamen together. The enrollment documents for the Imperial College had been issued, and the name list had been announced. However, it wasn't Xiao Lulang. How could this be? Gu Jiao asked. This. Magistrate Lu had an awkward expression. He awkwardly looked at Xiao Lulang, then looked at Gu Jiao. "I don't know if I should say it." "There's no harm in saying it," Xiao Lulang said. Magistrate Lu sighed. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that there was something going on behind the scenes. Ever since the county had held the exam, there had never been a student more outstanding than Xiao Lulang. Even though Xiao Lulang had failed in the exam, he was still ranked first in the county. Moreover, he was a student of Qianxiang Academy. Headmaster Li had unilaterally announced that he was a direct disciple. His reputation was clean, and there wasn't a single blemish on it. Magistrate Lu was also worried. The first person he wrote down was Xiao Liolong's name, but who let him, I really can't say. "Please let me go. I'm just a lowly county magistrate. I can't afford to offend those nobles." "Who did you give the name to?" Gu Jiao asked. Magistrate Lu hesitated, then said, "A student with the surname Feng. His name is Feng Lin." Gu Jiao and Xiao Liolong's expressions froze. "Which Feng Lin?" Gu Jiao frowned. "The Feng Lin from Qianxiang Academy." Magistrate Lu was shocked. He looked at the 2 of them and said, "Ah, yes. You know him?" Gu Jiao turned to Xiao Lulang and asked, "How many Feng Lins does your academy have?" "Only 1. Xiao Lulang said. Gu Jiao mumbled, "That's strange. Why is Feng Lin's result higher than yours?" "No, it's not about the results." Xiao Lulang said to the county magistrate, "He's not a local at all. He's from Song County. How could he get a local quota?" "That's what I said, but..." Magistrate Lu was halfway through his sentence when he realized that he had almost spilled the beans. He quickly corrected himself. "In short, there's nothing I can do. Scholar Xiao, Lady Xiao, you can go back first." Magistrate Lu really felt sorry for Xiao Lulang. He was such a good seedling. It was a pity that he didn't join a good family. Otherwise, how could his future be estimated? This matter should have nothing to do with Feng Lin, Xiao Lulang explained to Gu Jiao as he walked out. Yes, I know. Gu Jiao nodded her head. The two of them weren't people who would lose their minds easily. Perhaps when others heard this news, their first reaction would be to suspect Feng Lin. However, they both knew Feng Lin's character. He wouldn't stab Xiao Lulang in the back. Moreover, he couldn't do it. He didn't have any power or background. This matter was clearly targeted at Xiao Lulang. The other party wanted to use Feng Lin to suppress Xiao Lulang. Their intentions were to be executed. Gu Jiao said, "Why don't we go to the prefectural city and ask?" "Oh, don't go." The document was sent from the prefectural city. Magistrate Lu heard that they wanted to appeal and was very worried that he would lose his official position. He hurriedly chased after them and said, "To tell you the truth, that person is a noble from the capital. You won't find him even if you go to the prefectural city." What noble from the capital? Gu Jiao only knew one noble from the capital who had a problem with Xiao Lulang. A marquis. Magistrate Lu said that the person who sent the document accidentally let it slip and let him know that it was a marquis. However, as for which marquis he really couldn't say it even if he was beaten to death. A marquis, Gu Jiao muttered. As soon as she finished speaking, a carriage stopped in front of the county yamen. Marquis Gu swaggered down and straightened his clothes in high spirits. Then, his gaze landed on Gu Jiao and the little cripple, Xiao Lulang. "Oh, it's you? What a coincidence. Don't tell me you heard about the directorate's enrollment and came to see if there was a spot for you? Let this marquis guess, there are no more spots, right? Ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha." Marquis Gu put his hands on his hips and laughed. "I need to talk to him," Gu Jiao said to Xiao Lulang and dragged Marquis Gu into the carriage. Dong, 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 bang, bang, bang. Ah, ah, ah. After a moment of chaos, Marquis Gu collapsed in the corner of the carriage, his face ashen. Gu Jiao grabbed him by the collar and said coldly, "Change the spot for me." The moment Magistrate Lu saw Marquis Gu, he hurried back to the yamen and rummaged through the brocade box that Marquis Gu had sent. When he brought the brocade box to the side of the carriage, Marquis Gu had been beaten beyond recognition. He couldn't directly ask Marquis Gu to lift the curtain, so he said respectfully, "Marquis, I'm afraid I can't do what you asked me to do. You're too late. The quota for the directorate has already been decided by someone else. You should take your things back." Marquis Gu had no strength to speak. Gu Jiao paused and looked at Marquis Gu, who had been beaten into a punching bag. She asked, "You didn't do anything about the quota?" Marquis Gu was on his last breath. What did I do? Gu Jiao. I beat up the wrong person." Gu Jiao clapped her hands and got off the carriage with a serious expression. Marquis Gu had originally planned to do something, but it wasn't to prevent Xiao Lulang from going to the directorate. On the contrary, it was to allow him to go. Because only if Xiao Lulang went, could Gu Jiao go with him to the capital. He had Huang Zhong send an order to Magistrate Lu that very night. He also sent a large sum of hush money to have Magistrate Lu leave the quota for him. Just now, he had mocked Xiao Lulang for not having a quota because he was confident that the quota was already in his hands. Although it was to be given to Xiao Lulang, having that girl beg him a few times was also not bad. What he did not expect was that not long after Huang Zhong left, another noble person's order arrived. That marquis's power was even higher than Marquis Ding N. Magistrate Lu could only let Marquis Ding N down. Of course, he would not say it out loud. He only knew that Marquis Ding N had come too late. Marquis Gu felt wronged as he looked at the sky. Why was he beaten again today? On the way back, Gu Jiao did not ask Xiao Lulang why the Marquis of the capital had set his eyes on him. Was he not going to the capital because of that Marquis? If he wanted to say, she did not need to ask. If he did not want to say, asking was pointless. Gu Jiao sent Xiao Lulang to Heavenly Fragrance Academy. Just as she left, Xiao Lulang was stopped by a person. Xiao Lulang indifferently turned around. "It's you again?" The middle-aged man cupped his hands towards Xiao Lulang. With a face full of smiles, he said, "Long time no see. Young master still remembers this Lu." Xiao Liulong's expression was cold as he said, "The matter of the quota was done by you?" The middle-aged man smiled. "Young master was not willing to obediently return to the manor with us, so we could only use this method. That young master Feng is young master's friend. Instead of benefiting others, it is better to benefit him. Of course, if young master agrees to return to the manor with me, I can change the quota right now." Xiao Lulang was too lazy to pay attention to him and turned around to leave. The middle-aged man meaningfully said, "Young master, do you really not want to study at the Imperial College? That is a place that all scholars in the world want to go to. Moreover, the registration documents will be submitted to the Imperial Court tomorrow. Young master only has one night to think about it. Once the documents are sent out from the relay station, even the Marquis will not be able to get the documents back." Xiao Liulong's footsteps paused. "I said before, I am not a member of the Xiao family and I do not know you. I will not return to the Xiao family with you. You should give up." The middle-aged man sighed. "Sigh, why bother? Young master, this isn't a wise decision. You don't want to walk on the broad road, but you want to cross the single-plank bridge." Xiao Lulang said, "You can let me go back, but write my name and Feng Lin's name together." "Young master, you must be joking. I spent a lot of effort to obtain this quota. If it was so easy to enter the Imperial College, there would not be so many candidates fighting to get in." Xiao Lulang turned around to look at him. "Isn't there still the provincial examination? Since you are so powerful, why don't you just change my results to first place? I am a top scorer, so I can enter the Imperial College without any recommendation." Top scorers from all over the country were directly admitted to the Imperial College. This was the rule of Zhao country. The middle-aged man smiled. "We cannot interfere in the provincial examination. There is only one quota. I advise young master not to waste this opportunity. I will remind young master one last time. After tomorrow, there will be no turning back. If that is the case, then you cannot interfere in the provincial examination." Xiao Lulang coldly curved his lips and walked away disdainfully. Steward Lu was confused. He touched his chin and sucked in a breath of cold air. Did he miss something? In September, the provincial examination results came out. The relay station rushed to send the newly released second-class roll to all over the country. The county magistrate woke up before the sun rose. He did not wait at the yamen, but went directly to the relay station. The moment he received the second-class roll, his hands began to tremble. He could not wait to open it. On the rightmost column, there were 5 words written in large letters. Top scorer, Xiao Lulang. The county magistrate cried on the spot. He sat on the ground and hugged his head. "Woo woo woo! Woo woo woo!" The constable at the side was frightened. "County magistrate, you. What happened to you?" The county magistrate's eyes were brimming with tears. "I am so happy. The county magistrate under my rule has finally produced a top scorer." First place in the provincial examination was not so easy to obtain. There were many top scorers in the provincial capital. After all, the families and teachers of the provincial capital's candidates were there. The reason why so many people would travel thousands of miles to study at Qianxiang Academy was because Qianxiang Academy had the best teachers outside of the provincial capital. There were a total of 50 top scorers on the second-class roll. 10 of them were from Qianxiang Academy. This was a frightening ratio. However, these 10 top scorers were not all local scholars. Feng Lin and Lin Chengye were also top scorers. Feng Lin was ranked 17th. He was a scholar from Song County. Lin Chengye was ranked 45th. He was a scholar from the provincial capital. The county magistrate counted. There was only Xiao Lulang among the top scorers. 1 was 1. He was a top scorer. 1 was worth 10. He would not accept any rebuttals. The constable scratched his head and said, "Actually, Scholar Xiao. No, I should call him top scorers now. Top scorer Xiao was registered in our county because he married Miss Gu." Otherwise, he would still be a foreigner. The county magistrate. The county magistrate. I don't care, I don't care. His household register is here. He is the first top scorer in my term. The county magistrate personally went to Xiao Lulang to report the good news. The entire village knew that Xiao Lulang had become a top scorer. Did my Dashun pass? Zhou Shi excitedly ran over to Gu Jiao's house to ask the county magistrate. The county magistrate looked at her indifferently. Gu Dashuan's name is not there. How can it not be? Zhou Shi did not believe him. Xiao Lulang passed. How can my Dashun not pass? The county magistrate said, I don't like what you're saying. Is Xiao Lulang worse than your Dashun? In Zhou Shi's impression, Gu Dashun had always been the best. Xiao Lulang was lame and poor. Even if he went to the academy, he was always the last place. If this kind of person could pass, why couldn't Dashun pass? Did you make a mistake? Zhou Shi turned her head and saw Xiao Lulang coming back from the academy. She quickly went forward and said, Lulang, tell Auntie that Dashun also passed. Xiao Lulang said to Zhou Shi, I didn't see Gu Dashun during the provincial examination. A bolt from the blue, the family sold the dowry of the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law and collected a total of 20 taels of silver. They asked Gu Chonghai to bring Gu Dashun to the provincial examination. Who knew that someone would cheat them of all the money on the way? Zhou Shi fainted on the spot and was carried home by the villagers. Little Jing Kong came out of the private school and heard from Gu Xiaoshun that his bad brother-in-law got the first place. He expressed his disbelief and insisted that someone else must have made a mistake. It's true. Gu Xiaoshun scratched his head. The whole academy is in an uproar. Little Jing Kong insisted that seeing was believing. Gu Xiaoshun had to bring him and Gu Yen to the county magistrate's office. He was very small and the list was very high. He looked up for a long time and then said, I want to see the official document from the magistrate's office. The constables were dumbfounded. Little kid, you know about the official document? After knowing that he was Xiao Liulong's younger brother, the magistrate took out the official document and showed it to him. Little Jing Kong read it carefully 3 times. After confirming that it was not forged and that there was no mistake, he nodded with a serious face. He did get the first place. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found on the internet are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642/896428266/115102102. HTML Genius memorized the website's address. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 119. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that you can't find online are available here. Bad brother-in-law's grades were so bad. It was not easy for him to get first place. Little Jing Kong decided to praise his bad brother-in-law when he got back. However, when he got home, he realized that there was no need for him to praise his good brother-in-law. There were many people in the house. They were all here to congratulate his bad brother-in-law. See, he was right. His bad brother-in-law's grades were indeed bad. Therefore, everyone was surprised when he got first place. Little Jing Kong, who knew nothing about the value of the top scorer, decided to take back his praise. After everyone in the house left, Little Jing Kong found Xiao Lulang, who was packing up in the west room. Xiao Lulang looked at the little guy with his hands behind his back, acting like a little adult. He asked, Do you have something to say to me? Yes. Little Jing Kong nodded seriously. He looked like a teacher with his hands behind his back. Even his tone was very similar. You've heard praises all day, so I won't say more. Don't be arrogant just because you've heard too many praises. You have to be humble and study harder. Otherwise, you'll be laughed at if you don't get first place next time. Xiao Lulang looked at him. Who's laughing at you? Little Jing Kong snorted. I'm not that lame. If you don't get first place, you can't support your family. I'm not an adult yet. Xiao Lulang smiled faintly. Didn't you say that it's okay if I don't do well? Little Clear Sky was at a loss for words. Xiao Lulang chuckled. Did you remember? No, you remembered wrongly. I didn't say that. Little Jing Kong decisively exercised his privilege as a child, reneging on a debt. This was the knowledge that he had learned in elementary school, taught to him by his deskmate who had been his deskmate for the entire day. Then, little Jing Kong quickly changed his position and looked for Gu Jiao to be her little tail. During dinner, Gu Jiao talked about Xiao Lulang going to the Imperial College. Aren't you going? The old lady asked. Gu Jiao said seriously, Why should I go? I'm not studying, I'm not curious about Beijing, not at all. Everyone looked at her in disbelief. Who was the one crying and singing that she wanted to go to the capital that night? Ha ha ha. Gu Jiao was inseparable from the family. It was okay for 1 or 2 days. Xue Ningxiong could withstand it. If it was too long, she would die. In the end, the family unanimously decided to go to the capital together. But can a single travel permit bring our entire family? Gu Jiao didn't want to miss out on anyone. One is not enough, Xiao Lulang said, but we still have Feng Lin. With his help, we should be able to enter the capital. Steward Lu thought that his plan was perfect, but he didn't know that he had been played by Xiao Lulang. If he didn't scheme against Xiao Lulang wouldn't have gotten what he wanted. The Imperial College opened at the end of October, and it was already September. They had to hurry up and get on the road. Gu Jiao left the matter of opening the mountain to Luo Lizheng. Although Luo Lizheng didn't study much, he could still read. Moreover, his son had passed the Imperial College examination, so he could understand the drawings and plans left by Gu Jiao. There wasn't anything valuable in the house. They only had Liulong's books. Xue Ningxiong said that she would help take care of them. Oh right, Gouwa's second uncle is also in Beijing. If you go there, help me meet him. I'll bring something to him. Okay. Gu Jiao agreed. Xiao Lulang went to Chenxiong Academy and the private school to apply for the withdrawal of his 3 younger brothers. Gu Yen didn't like to go to school, so he was happy to be able to withdraw. Gu Xiaoshun went to the academy to learn how to carve characters on wood. In fact, he could learn from little Jing Kong. As for little Jing Kong, with his level, he couldn't find a suitable class in the private school. If he wanted to skip a grade, he would be in the class that specialized in the Imperial College examination. The Imperial College had a preliminary class, and there were many young geniuses in the preliminary class. Xiao Lulang felt that little Jing Kong was more suitable. Xiao Lulang also went to greet Dean Li. Dean Li had mixed feelings. He hoped that Xiao Lulang could go to Beijing for the Imperial College examination every day, but when he really went, he suddenly felt very reluctant. He sighed. Forget it. No matter where you go, you'll always be my disciple. Xiao Lulang wanted to say something but stopped. I'm afraid you won't be able to become my disciple for the rest of your life. Speaking of which, I should have had a younger brother in Beijing. Dean Li suddenly said, Unfortunately, he died young. I didn't even have the chance to see him. Xiao Lulang glanced at him indifferently. He walked out of Zhongheng Hall and sneezed loudly. Gu Jiao took little Jing Kong to the temple. Little Jing Kong said goodbye to the abbot, his senior brothers, and his friends. He didn't see his master. However, little Jing Kong was used to it. His master was rarely in the temple all year round. Are you going on a long trip too? Little monk Jing Fan asked. For little monks sat on the steps of the temple, each holding a string of vegetarian meatballs made by Gu Jiao. Little Jing Kong ate a mouthful of Chinese characters and sighed. Yes, My bad brother-in-law is admitted to the Imperial College. Our whole family is going to go to school with him. But why did you say so? Jing Fan smiled and said, because we're going on a long trip too. The abbot is going to take us to the Dharma conference. Oh. Little Jing Kong was actually a little tempted. However, this might be the price of going down the mountain. Since he had Jiao Jiao, he was destined to give up some things. In his heart, Jiao Jiao was still the most important thing. Gu Jiao brought a lot of delicious food. In addition to vegetarian meatballs, there was also vegetarian roast duck, vegetarian dompa pig knuckle, and 2 boxes of osmanthus cake bought from Li Ji. The 4 little monks had a pleasant afternoon. Gu Jiao also went to the medical center to say goodbye to the second boss. However, shopkeeper Wang told her that something happened to the Hu family and he had already returned to the capital. She might be able to see him in the capital. Gu Jiao went to Dean Li's house and gave some mountain products and hawthorn cakes to old Madame Li. Old Madame Li was still in a daze, but her complexion was much better. The servant said that when old Madame Li woke up, she said that she had a little grandson and was very happy. At the hot spring villa, Marquis Gu rested for a few days and finally recovered from the wounds on his face and body. He went to Madame Yao's courtyard to find her. Madame Yao was ordering the servants to pack their luggage. Marquis Gu was stunned. Madam, what are you doing? Don't you live in the villa? Are you leaving? That's right, I'm leaving. Madame Yao nodded. Marquis Gu panicked and stepped forward to grab Madame Yao's hand. I was wrong. I will never bully that girl again. I will not drive a wedge between them and divorce. You're angry. Don't go. This time, it was Madame Yao's turn to be stunned. Marquis, what are you saying? Who are you bullying? Jiao Jiao? You went to find them and threatened them to divorce? Marquis Gu panicked. Marquis. Madame Yao painfully pulled her hand back. Marquis Gu quickly denied it and said, I did not. I am saying that I plan to. Madame Yao was shocked and angry. You still plan to? Marquis Gu shook his head like a rattle drum. Small ripples appeared on his cheeks. I won't. I won't go now. I will listen to everything you say. Don't go. Madame Yao calmed her emotions and said to Marquis Gu, if I don't go, how can I return to the capital? Marquis Gu was surprised. You're finally willing to go back? You've thought it through? But what about Yen and Cough and Jiao Jiao? Madame Yao smiled but did not say anything. On the side, Nurse Fong happily said, Marquis, you probably don't know yet. The son-in-law has become a top scorer and is going to study at the Imperial College. The young master and young miss are going to the capital with him. Marquis Gu was stunned. Did he hear wrongly? That little cripple had become a top scorer? He had just scolded him for being useless, and he had become a top scorer in front of him? What was the meaning of this? Was she here to slap him in the face? Marquis Gu pursed his lips. He was just a top scorer from a small provincial capital. How great was that? There were 20 to 30 top scorers like him in the whole of Zhao country. He was probably the worst of them all. However, this solved his urgent problem. If they still did not return to the capital, Jinyu would have to go through her hairpin ceremony at the villa. Gu Jinyu also heard the news that Madame Yao was packing her luggage. She happily came over to help Madame Yao pack her things. Unexpectedly, she accidentally heard the reason why Madame Yao agreed to return to the capital. It was because Gu Yen and Gu Jiao were going to the capital. Gu Jinyu felt like her heart had been pierced by something. Mother said that she treated her like her own, but in her heart, the person she loved the most was her own flesh and blood. Ah, right. Marquis Gu suddenly remembered that the son of the Gu family was also taking the provincial examination this year. What was that child's name again? Gu Shunzi? Gu Shunfeng? Gu Dashun? Did Gu Dashun pass the examination? Marquis Gu asked. Madame Yao personally went to the yamen to look at the list. She remembered the names on the list clearly. There was no candidate with the surname Gu. Nurse Fong disdainfully sneered. The son-in-law is talking about that family's son, right? I heard that he also went to the provincial examination. Unfortunately, he didn't even pass the provincial examination. He's far worse than our son-in-law. There's a saying that dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes, and mice give birth to babies that can dig holes. Other than the deceased Gu San Lang and his wife, no one else in that family is good, and they still want to pass the provincial examination? Bah! Maybe in your next life. These words were a bit harsh. She shouldn't lose her composure in front of her master. However, that family was indeed too harsh on Gu Jiao, so even the mild-mannered Madame Yao didn't refute Nurse Fong's words. Although Marquis Gu was a bit unhappy that Nurse Fong praised the little cripple so highly, he agreed with the rest of her words. That family was indeed hateful. As for Gu Jinyu, Marquis Gu never thought of her as a member of the old Gu family, so he didn't feel that she was being scolded. Nurse Fong originally didn't mean to scold Gu Jinyu. She was only referring to those from the old Gu family. However, the speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. Gu Jinyu's face flushed red. It was even more embarrassing than being slapped by Gu Jiao on the street. In the end, she didn't go in to help Madame Yao count the luggage. Instead, she turned around with red eyes and silently returned to her room. Nurse. Madame Yao suddenly spoke from inside the room. In the future, it's better not to say such things. Be careful that Jinyu doesn't hear it. That child is sensitive. I'm afraid that she will think too much. Yes. Madam. Nurse Fong bowed in response. Madame Yao looked at the 3 sets of clothes in the box. They were all personally made by her. After reuniting with Jiao Jiao, she was anxious to make up for Jiao Jiao and neglected Jinyu. These 3 sets of clothes were all made by her for Jinyu. Madame Yao knew that her daughter would be uncomfortable with them, so she didn't ask her to travel with her. Instead, she arranged for the Marquis's household's best coachman and carriage for her daughter. Marquis Gu didn't have any objections to this. After all, Gu Yan's body was weak. A good carriage would greatly reduce the bumpiness. Gu Jinyu sat in the bumpy carriage. She probably felt that she didn't have any weight in this family. They only gave her 3 sets of clothes, but gave Gu Jiao a carriage. Gu Jinyu looked out the window, her face full of grievance. On a sunny morning, Gu Jiao, Xiao Lulang, and the others set foot on the road to the capital. The weather was still beautiful. After a long journey of more than a month, the group arrived at the capital. Feng Lin did not travel with them. He wanted to make a trip home and took the water route. Feng Lin's travel permit was in Xiao Liulong's hands. Great Aunt and little Jing Kong were registered on his travel permit. He was a supervisor of the Imperial College and could enter the capital with the admission document. Gu Jiao and Gu Xiaoshun were registered on Xiao Liulong's travel permit. This kind of school district travel permit was different from ordinary travel permits. One could bring along family members, but only 2 at most. As for Gu Yan and the coachman, they were originally from the capital. It was still early when they entered the capital. They first went to the nearest relay station to rest and feed the horses. At the same time, they also inquired about the residences in the capital. On the way, Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang had discussed it. They would try to live near the Imperial College so that it would be convenient for him to attend school. They had used some silver to open the mountain. Now, they only had 1,000 taels left. 1,000 taels could buy a few houses in the town, but it was not enough in the capital. The best way was to rent. They were lucky that the relay station happened to have a broker. A broker, also known as a guarantor, was similar to the intermediary in Gu Jiao's previous life. They were registered in the Yamen and could buy and sell servants, property, and animals reasonably. The guarantor's surname was Zhang. He was a young man in his early 30s. When Zhang Bao heard that they were going to the Imperial College to attend school, he immediately cupped his hands and showed a respectful expression. So you are a supervisor of the Imperial College? Then I will help you. Don't worry. Whichever area you like, I will sell it to you at the lowest price. Gu Jiao was not familiar with the capital. Xiao Lulang told her the approximate location of the Imperial College. It was at the northeast corner of the intersection of Chong An Avenue and Xuanwu Avenue. It was closer to Chong An Avenue, but Chong An Avenue was a commercial street and was very congested. So, in fact, both streets were similar. Zhang Bao was surprised. "Little brother, have you been to the capital before? Are you very familiar with the capital?" The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/115098502. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 120. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Jiao glanced at Xiao Lulang. Xiao Liulong's expression did not change as he said, "I heard the dean of our academy mention it." Gu Jiao said to Zhang Bao, "My husband's dean lived in the capital for more than 10 years. Zhang Bao suddenly understood. "Ah, so that's how it is." Gu Jiao said, "Are there any houses on these 2 streets?" "Ah, there are." Zhang Bao looked at the 2 of them. Their clothes were very simple. Although one of them was a supervisor of the Imperial College, he was a cripple. The other had an extraordinary temperament, but his face was damaged. These 2 didn't have much money, right? Zhang Bao smiled and said, "Do you want a house with a single entrance or a house with 2 entrances?" Gu Jiao thought for a moment and said, "We need at least 5 houses." "Then it'll have to be 2 or 3 houses." Zhang Bao smiled. Houses with 2 or 3 houses are not cheap. A house with 2 houses costs at least 10 taels a month, and a house with 3 houses costs 20 taels. In the countryside, 10 taels was enough to feed a large family for a year or 2. However, this was the capital, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold. Gu Jiao thought about it and understood. Gu Jiao suggested going out to take a look. No matter how Zhang Bao looked at them, they didn't look like they could afford it. He was worried that he would make a wasted trip. Although they were supervisors of the Imperial College, was there a shortage of supervisors in the capital? The capital was a place where a falling plaque could kill 3 officials. Zhang Bao really didn't think much of Xiao Lulang. However, he hadn't opened for business for several days. Since he had nothing to do, he decided to take the 2 of them. Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang looked at more than 10 houses. There were 2 and 3 houses, but they were not satisfied with any of them. The 2 of them returned to the relay station. Zhang Bao followed them. "Do you want to decide today? If it's any later, the students from all over the country who are coming to the capital for the exam will arrive. Even if we want to rent it, we won't be able to. Moreover, the price won't be this high." Gu Jiao said, "It's too small and too secluded." Although it was said to be near the Imperial College, in reality, it was not the residences on the 2 streets, but the most remote alleys at the end of the street. Not only was it dark and damp, it was also very close to very noisy shops. If it was not a smithy, then it was a carpentry shop. There was even a coffin shop. How could he study in peace? "I only have these houses at this price. If you want something better, you'll have to pay this price." Zhang Bao gestured. 30 taels. Gu Jiao asked. "A house," Zhang Bao said. The first entry cost 30 taels of silver, not to mention the second and third entry. It seemed that regardless of the dynasty, the school district housing was extremely expensive. Alas! Zhang Bao sighed and said, Alright, I'll just tell you the truth. The houses in the capital are priced at this price. The good locations and good houses have already been bought by the nobles in the capital. Those nobles don't lack money, so they won't rent out their houses. Even if you change 100 guarantors, you'll only be able to rent those houses just now. Gu Jiao asked, didn't you say that there are good houses, just that the price is higher? Zhang Bao smiled and said, there's a house with 3 entrances, 100 taels a month. Gu Jiao frowned, what house costs 100 taels? Zhang Bao gestured, it's diagonally opposite the Imperial College, walk 500 steps. The house where the young Marquis of Zhao Du and the young Chancellor once lived. Xiao Liulong's mouth twitched. When did he live there? Zhang Bao slammed the table and said, he lived there. If you live there, you'll be able to bask in his auspicious aura and pass every exam. Xiao Lulang said indifferently, he didn't live there. Zhang Bao rolled up his sleeves, how do you know he didn't live there? You're not him. This price is high, at most 30 taels. Xiao Lulang said indifferently. Of course, Zhang Bao knew that his price was high. In the past, he could buy a house with 30 taels, but wasn't the Imperial College about to reopen? The area was expensive again. He was sure that the lowest price was 50 taels. If this family wasn't willing, he would find someone else. He didn't believe that he couldn't rent out a house near the Imperial College. Jiao Jiao, what are you doing? Little Jing Kong woke up from his afternoon nap. He rubbed his eyes and came to the lobby of the courier station to look for Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao carried him over and rubbed his little head. His hair had grown out a little. He wasn't bald anymore, but had a buzz cut. We're looking for a place to stay. Gu Jiao said, did you sleep well? Yes, where are we going to stay? Little Jing Kong leaned in Gu Jiao's arms and enjoyed her rubbing his little head. I don't know yet. Gu Jiao shook her head. Little Jing Kong looked at the drawings on the table and asked, what are these? Zhang Bao smiled and said, these are house deeds. He was worried that the child would break his things, so he quickly put away the house deeds. Little Jing Kong said, I have this too. The 3 of them were stunned. Little Jing Kong ran back to the carriage and took out a small box from his small box. He took the small box back to the lobby and put it on the wooden table in front of the 3 of them. The table was a little high, so he couldn't reach it and open it. Let me do it. Gu Jiao reached out her hand. Gu Jiao had seen a few small boxes like this when she was packing up little Jing Kong's things at home, but she had never opened them. Okay. Jiao Jiao, do it. Little Jing Kong nodded decisively. Gu Jiao opened the small box. There were a few thumb-sized seals and a few documents inside. They were not ordinary documents, but house deeds. The 3 of them were very surprised. Let me see, Xiao Lulang said. Okay. Gu Jiao took out the house deeds and handed them to Xiao Lulang. Zhang Bao also came over to take a look. It was fine if he didn't take a look, but when he did, he was almost scared out of his wits. The houses on Chong'an Avenue, Xuanwu Avenue, and even Vermilion Bird Avenue. Did he go all the way to the Imperial Palace? Is this a real house deed? Gu Jiao asked Xiao Lulang. It's real, Xiao Lulang said. Jing Kong's name is written on the house deed, so it's his house deed. Gu Jiao looked at little Jing Kong in her arms. How did you get these? Little Jing Kong looked at the house deeds in Xiao Liulong's hands, counted with his fingers, and said, Jiao Jiao, are you talking about these papers? Master gave them to me. He gives me one every year on my birthday. I have celebrated 3 birthdays in total, so there are 3 of them. Gu Jiao, Xiao Lulang, Zhang Bao. Gu Jiao suddenly couldn't look at the big box of junk in little Jing Kong's eyes. The locations of the 3 houses were better than the previous one. Zhang Bao was just bragging that the house that cost 100 taels of silver was diagonally opposite the Imperial College. It was 500 steps away from the Imperial College, but in reality, it was more than 1,000 steps away. The house that little Jing Kong's master gave him was much closer to the Imperial College. After walking out of the alley, the Imperial College was just around the corner. Zhang Bao had lived for more than 30 years, but this was the first time he made a mistake. He was dressed like a country bumpkin and bought 3 big houses at once. The house on Vermilion Bird Avenue was difficult to buy, as almost all the people who lived there were relatives of the emperor. The 2 houses on Xuanwu Avenue and Chong'an Avenue were priceless. Where did this group of people come from? Little Jing Kong didn't understand what a house deed was. Gu Jiao explained to him that it was a very precious thing, and it was proof that he owned a house. He decisively put all the house deeds in front of Gu Jiao. Give them all to Jiao Jiao. Little Jing Kong's home was wherever there was a Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao had already accepted his zither, so she couldn't accept his house deed anymore. In the end, Gu Jiao proposed to rent the house in Little Jing Kong for 30 taels of silver a month. Little Jing Kong said seriously, "I don't want Jiao Jiao to pay me." Gu Jiao patted his little head and said, "Your brother-in-law will pay you." Little Jing Kong thought seriously, "If my brother-in-law pays me, I'll pay Jiao Jiao." There's nothing wrong with that. Both parties asked Zhang Bao to be the guarantor and signed a house rental contract. This was Little Jing Kong's first time doing business, so he took this matter seriously. Not only did he sign the contract, but he also put a stamp on it. The premium was 30% of the first month's rent, which was 9 taels of silver. This was a lifetime guarantee, and he had to come to the site to terminate the contract after the lease ended. "We'll pay half of the premium," Zhang Bao said with a smile. "Do you have any money?" Xiao Lulang looked at Little Jing Kong calmly. Little Jing Kong was in a dilemma. He didn't have any money. This was a story that was even sadder than sad. But soon, he thought of a solution. "I'll deduct it from your first month's rent." Xiao Lulang was annoyed and amused at the same time. The little monk was quite smart in business. It was a 2-sectioned house with a front yard. There were some bamboos planted in the yard. There were 2 rooms in the first row, a study room, and a kitchen. After passing through the hall, there was a backyard. There was an osmanthus tree in the backyard, and behind the osmanthus tree were 3 rooms. Just like when they were in the village, Little Jing Kong and Xiao Lulang shared a room, and the rest of them each had their own room. The house wasn't very big, but it had good lighting. Most importantly, it was not only close to the Imperial College, but also to several private schools. This undoubtedly solved the problem of Gu Yen and the rest of them going to school. Hearing that they still had to go to school, Gu Yen and Gu Xiaoshun were a little dumbfounded. Didn't we drop out of school?" the 2 asked in unison. Gu Jiao opened a suitcase and said, "We did drop out in the county town, but we have to continue after coming to the capital. You are still young. What are you going to do if you don't go to school?" The 2's faces were ashen. They were happy all the way, but were they happy for nothing? Also, what do you mean by "we are still young"? You don't seem to be old either. The furniture in the house was complete, but it had accumulated a lot of dust due to the lack of people living in it for a long time. The few of them simply cleaned up the few rooms and moved in first. The courtyard and the kitchen would be slowly cleaned up later. The pots and pans would also be bought tomorrow morning. Dinner was steamed buns bought from outside, and they ate them with the pickled vegetables brought by Gu Jiao. The capital was colder than the county town. Gu Jiao could already feel the coldness of the winter moon on an October night. This was not like the countryside, where they could go to the mountains to chop firewood. They had to go to the market to buy firewood and charcoal. Everyone was exhausted from the bumpy journey. When they returned to their rooms, they fell asleep. Little Jing Kong was lying on his back next to Xiao Lulang, snoring evenly. Xiao Lulang was not sleepy at all. He finally returned here. Heng, Teacher Zhuang's class is too difficult. Let's go out and play, okay? Heng, this little rabbit is injured. Let's bring it home, okay? Heng, I want to eat dates. Can you go to the tree and pick them for me? Heng, can you go and buy osmanthus cake for me? Heng, can you die for me? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/115069031. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 121. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Gu Jiao woke up before dawn. After washing up, she went to feed the chickens in Little Jing Kong. The chicks had grown into big chickens and would occasionally crow. If no one woke up, they would stop crowing. There was a small market nearby. It was in a different direction from the Imperial College, so it was faster to walk there. Gu Jiao carried her basket and went to the small market. "Steamed buns, fresh and delicious steamed buns," a hawker shouted. Gu Jiao walked over and asked, "How much is one steamed bun?" The hawker saw the birthmark on her face, but he didn't show any strange expression. He was indeed from the capital and didn't find it strange. The hawker smiled and said, "One big meat steamed bun is 3 copper coins. 2 brown sugar steamed buns are 3 copper coins. How many do you want?" The steamed buns were very big and one was enough to fill him up. Gu Jiao took out the food box from the small basket and said, 8 meat steamed buns and 4 sugar steamed buns. They ate the meat steamed buns and the sugar steamed buns in Little Jing Kong. She didn't know if 4 steamed buns could fill him up. The little guy's appetite was a bit shocking. "Okay. That's a total of 30 copper coins. I'll give you a steamed bun." The hawker packed the steamed buns for Gu Jiao. "Thank you." Gu Jiao paid and went to buy pots, bowls, ladles, basins, and other kitchen utensils. Then, she bought firewood. The firewood in the capital was not cheap. A bundle of firewood cost 10 copper coins. According to their firewood burning speed, they could burn for about 2 to 3 days. Gu Jiao asked for 2 bundles of firewood and asked how much charcoal was sold. The hawker selling firewood said, "Do you want black charcoal or silver charcoal? Black charcoal is 5 copper coins per catty and silver charcoal is 20 copper coins per catty." "Silver charcoal is so expensive?" The hawker selling firewood laughed and said, "Silver charcoal is very useful." This was the truth. Black charcoal was not only not resistant to burning, but it was also very smoky. In comparison, silver charcoal was more resistant to burning and didn't smoke. In the end, Gu Jiao bought 100 catty of silver charcoal for 17 copper coins per catty. The peddler drove the mule cart and personally delivered the firewood and silver charcoal to the door. Xiao Lulang had already woken up and cleaned the kitchen. He was now cleaning the backyard. His movements were very light and did not wake anyone up. "Morning," Gu Jiao greeted. "Morning." Xiao Lulang nodded. Gu Jiao directly asked the peddler to move the firewood and silver charcoal to the kitchen. After the peddler left, Gu Jiao walked over and took the broom from Xiao Liulong's hand. "I'll do it. You go and tidy up the box." This time, Gu Jiao, Old Madam, Gu Yen, and Gu Xiaoshun didn't have much luggage. On the contrary, Xiao Lulang and Little Jing Kong had several big suitcases full of luggage. Xiao Lulang mainly brought books, while Little Jing Kong brought back things from the temple. Of course, there were also his 7 chicks. "Okay." Xiao Lulang turned around and went to the study. After a while, Gu Jiao brought 2 steaming big meat buns to him. "You eat first. I'll cook some millet porridge." "Have you eaten?" Xiao Lulang stopped her. "Not yet." Gu Jiao shook her head. She wanted to say that she could eat while she was cooking the porridge. Unexpectedly, Xiao Lulang pushed the plate forward and said, then let's eat together. Gu Jiao thought for a while and said, okay. Since there were more people in the family, the two hadn't eaten alone for a long time. The last time was at the inn in town, but that was more than half a year ago. The two sat face to face, as if they had returned to the early days. Gu Jiao laughed. What are you laughing at? Xiao Lulang asked. Gu Jiao held the big meat bun in her hand and said, I'm laughing at the first time I asked you to eat. Did you think that I poisoned it and didn't dare to eat it? I didn't. Xiao Lulang flatly denied. Gu Jiao suddenly leaned over and stared at his handsome face. Now you're not afraid that I poisoned it? Is it because you trust me too much? While Gu Jiao was feeling complacent, she saw Xiao Lulang looking at the bun in his hand with a complicated expression. Then, he took Gu Jiao's bun and gave his bun to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao was speechless. After the two finished eating breakfast, the rest of the family was still asleep. Xiao Lulang had to report to the Imperial College. Gu Jiao estimated that they would sleep until noon, so she sent Xiao Lulang to the Imperial College. The Imperial College officially started school in late October. Nowadays, there were many supervisors coming to report. Some were from the capital, while others, like Xiao Lulang, had come from other places. The regular supervisors of the Imperial College didn't need to pay tuition. All expenses were paid by the Imperial Court, including the supervisors' dormitories and meals. These were all paid for by the Imperial Court. Xiao Lulang could go back today after reporting to the Academic Affairs Office. Of course, if he wanted, he could stay at the Imperial College to study. The Imperial College had the largest library in the entire Zhao Kingdom. Otherwise, it wouldn't have become the holy land that all scholars dreamed of. Gu Jiao was waiting for him outside the Imperial College. Gu Jiao felt that the heavy traffic in front of her was very refreshing. So this was the capital. It was really different from the county town. The roads were much wider, and several carriages would pass by from time to time. Most of the girls on the road were wearing veils. There were very few girls like Gu Jiao who showed their faces in public. Gu Jiao was engrossed in watching when the crowd suddenly surged in one direction. Everyone stood on both sides of the street and looked in one direction. Gu Jiao wasn't standing far from the street. She was pushed to the side and someone stepped on her foot. Ah! I'm sorry. The culprit hurriedly apologized to Gu Jiao. It was a boy dressed as a scholar, but whether it was her appearance or her deliberately lowered voice, it was clear that she was a girl. His features were delicate and pretty. I'm really sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. The girl dressed as a boy cupped her hands and bowed to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao didn't take it to heart. She moved back to give way. However, the people behind her didn't give her a chance to move. She was stuck in the middle of the crowd and couldn't move forward or backward. The little scholar kept trying to squeeze forward, but she was too weak and couldn't get to the front. She gave up resisting and wiped the sweat from her forehead. She asked Gu Jiao, Miss, what happened to your face? Gu Jiao calmly said, birthmark. Ah. The little scholar hurriedly covered her mouth. I thought it was rouge. I'm sorry. Gu Jiao didn't care about her unintentional offense. She felt apologetic. It was bad enough that she bumped into her, but she also stepped on her foot and said the wrong words that poked her sore spot. Sigh. There wasn't a day that she didn't offend people. The little scholar looked at Gu Jiao and said, Miss, you're not from the capital, right? Your accent doesn't sound like it. Gu Jiao replied, yes. The little scholar continued, did you also come here to see the crown prince consort? Gu Jiao asked strangely, what consort? The little scholar's almond eyes widened. The crown prince consort? You came here so early because you heard that the crown prince consort came back from praying and was going to pass by the directorate, right? Gu Jiao shook her head. I don't know the crown prince consort. I don't want to see her. The little scholar took a cold breath. Who came to see her because they know her? Can common people like us know the crown prince consort? Don't we all want to see her from afar because we heard of her and admire her? Gu Jiao said seriously, I have never heard of her and don't admire her. Are you from the Zhao kingdom? You have never heard of the crown prince consort? The little scholar's voice was unusually loud and caused the people in the surroundings to look at them. Everyone looked at Gu Zhao in disbelief. Clearly, like the little scholar, they found it strange that there was someone in the world who didn't know the crown prince consort of the Zhao kingdom. As they spoke, someone in the crowd suddenly shouted, "The crown prince consort is here, the crown prince consort is here." Following his exchange, the crowd became restless. Hundreds of imperial guards came on iron hooves. They formed an enormous formation and surrounded the crown prince consort's carriage. The common people didn't even see how many wheels the carriage had before the imperial guards escorted the crown prince consort's ceremonial procession down the street. The crowd dispersed. The little scholar looked at the disappearing figures of the imperial guards and stomped his feet in anger. I wasn't looking. Was it easy for me to come out? What a waste of waking up so early. Leaving the dense crowd, Gu Zhao sighed in relief. She really wasn't used to being so close to strangers. The little scholar saw that Gu Zhao wasn't upset or angry at all and asked curiously, "You really didn't come to see the crown prince consort?" Gu Zhao said calmly, "I said I wasn't." The little scholar asked, "Why?" Gu Zhao said, "I also said that." The little scholar said, "You really haven't heard of her?" Gu Zhao looked speechlessly at him. The crown prince consort was the person that the little scholar admired the most. He would not allow anyone in the world to not hear of her. The little scholar explained to Gu Zhao seriously, "Do you know who the crown prince consort is? She is the most outstanding woman in the entire Zhao kingdom. There is no man in the world that doesn't like her, no woman that doesn't envy her. Do you know the great scholar of the Zhuang family, Zhuang Xianji? He was once the crown prince consort's teacher. Do you know who went to school with him? The young Marquis of Zhaodu." Gu Zhao looked calmly at him. The little scholar exploded. "No way. Don't tell me you also don't know who the young Marquis of Zhaodu is." The young Marquis. The young Chancellor. Gu Zhao thought for a moment. "Oh, I've heard of him. It was a long time ago. Young Master Qin got a painting from somewhere and said it was the young Marquis calligraphy, but Xiao Lulang said it wasn't." This was the only time she had heard of the young Marquis of Zhao. The little scholar slapped his forehead. Oh my God, did you jump out of a rock? How can you not know the young Marquis and the crown prince consort? One of them was the #1 genius of Zhao Kingdom and the other was the #1 genius of Zhao Kingdom. They were childhood sweethearts and even had an engagement. After the young Marquis died, the crown prince consort kept her chastity for him for 3 years. This year, she accepted the emperor's bestowment of marriage and married the crown prince. You actually haven't heard of such a legendary event? The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/115065314. HTML. This genius remembers the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 122. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Gu Zhao hadn't heard of it before, and she wasn't interested either. However, Xiao Lulang hadn't come out yet, so she had no choice but to wait on the spot and listen to the little girl's chatter for a while. Xiao Lulang went to the directorate's Ming Xian Hall. He didn't need anyone to lead the way as he was familiar with the place. His walking stick attracted the attention of many supervisors. He straightened his back and calmly walked past a bunch of strange gazes. Ming Xian Hall was the directorate's academic affairs office. Every day, there would be supervisors and supervisors coming here to wait for supervisors from all over the country to report. Today, the supervisor of Ming Xian Hall was a supervisor with the surname Gao, as well as 2 supervisors with the surname Wang and Su. Alright, follow Supervisor Su to the dormitory. School will start at the end of October. If you have nothing to do, you can go to the library first. Thank you. A supervisor from another place walked out of Ming Xian Hall under Supervisor Su's lead. Gao Xuejing lowered his eyes and sorted out the supervisor's information. Next, a slender jade-like hand placed an admission document in front of him. This hand was a bit too good-looking. Gao Xuejing subconsciously raised his head and was shocked by the other party's appearance. Offer? Offer what? Libation? Gao Xuejing suddenly realized that he had made a fool of himself. Little Chancellor had long passed away, so how could the person in front of him be him? It was just that they looked too similar at first glance, which caused him to lose his composure. However, upon closer inspection, they didn't look alike. The young Chancellor was a gentle youth. His eyes were always filled with a smile that made people feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Furthermore, there was a mole under his right eye. Not only did the person in front of him not have that mole, he also didn't have a gentle and bright temperament. Even his eyes were cold. Gao Xuejing was secretly annoyed that he had almost mistaken the person for someone else because he was too tired recently. He composed himself and sat down to pick up the document. Xiao Lulang? Someone from Clear Spring Village? His surname was also Xiao. Could they be relatives? Soon, Gao Xuejing shook his head in self-mockery. How could Marquis Xian Ping's mansion have a relative from a small village? Gao Xuejing then said, "Your results are not bad. You're a top scorer from Yu Prefecture, and was directly recruited. School will officially start on the 27th of October. Once school starts, you'll be assigned to different classes. Don't be complacent just because you're a top scorer. There are many top scorers in the Imperial College, and you'll soon realize that you're just one of them. Don't run around for the time being. Go to the library and read more books, understand?" Although he had said those words to deal a blow to Xiao Lulang, he had not said so much to the person who had recommended him. It was obvious that he had his eye on the top scorer. However, he had seen a lot of things. Many people who were number 1 in their local area were immediately defeated when they came to the Imperial College. He still hoped to give the other party a warning. After all, it was not easy for a small village to produce a top scorer. Gao Xuejing wanted to arrange for Xiao Lulang to stay in the same dormitory as the other top scorers, but was rejected by Xiao Lulang. "I'll stay outside." "Why?" Gao Xuejing was puzzled. "The dormitory won't charge you any money. You'll be able to focus on your studies if you stay in the Imperial College. The capital is filled with flowers. A poor kid like you who hasn't seen much of the world will easily be led astray." Gao Xuejing had a sharp tongue. If not, he would not have remained a small official in the Imperial College for so long. However, he was not a bad person. Xiao Lulang said calmly, "It won't affect my studies." Gao Xuejing sighed. "All right then. If you don't stay in the Imperial College, you'll have to come back 3 days later to collect your token." The Imperial College provided free food and lodging, but they could not force the students to stay here. Looking at Xiao Liulong's back, Gao Xuejing shook his head. What a pity. He had already predicted that Xiao Lulang would be blinded by the prosperity of the capital and abandon himself. From then on, his grades would plummet. When Xiao Lulang walked out of the Imperial College, the talkative little scholar had already been found by his family's servants and left dejectedly. Gu Jiao looked at him. "Is it done?" Xiao Lulang nodded. "Yes, I'll come back 3 days later to collect my token from the Imperial College." The two of them returned home side by side. The journey was really short. After coming out of the Imperial College, they took a few steps and turned into the alley where they lived. They lived in the middle of the alley. Not all the houses in the alley were occupied. The environment was quite peaceful. It's more convenient than going to school in the village, Gu Jiao said with a smile. Xiao Lulang nodded and said, in the afternoon, I'll go take a look at the private school for Gu Yan and Xiao Shun. Little Jing Kong will go take the Imperial College's entrance exam. He will take the exam 2 days later than me. Gu Jiao smiled and nodded, okay, I'll do as you say. After a few words, they arrived home. Gu Jiao was very satisfied with this house. The two of them were just about to enter when a horse carriage came from the other side of the alley and stopped in front of their house. The carriage driver pulled on the reins and jumped off the horse. Excuse me, is this top scorer Zhao's house? Xiao Lulang saw the insignia on the carriage and his eyes turned cold. Gu Jiao asked, what's wrong? What do you want? The carriage driver said politely, it's like this. My housekeeper knew that top scorer Xiao had come to the capital and specially asked me to send some things over. Winter comes early in the capital. Next month, we will start burning charcoal. The carriage is filled with high-quality silver charcoal. There are also some materials and cotton wool, all of which are the warmest. You see, should I directly move the things in for the two of you? Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Lulang. Xiao Liulong's expression was as cold as a knife. Gu Jiao said to the carriage driver, no need, we are not lacking in silver charcoal. We also do not need cotton wool mattresses. Give them to your housekeeper to take back. The carriage driver said awkwardly, but housekeeper Lu said, no buts. If he tells you to take it back, then take it back. Gu Jiao lightly finished speaking and entered the house with Xiao Lulang, closing the courtyard door. The carriage driver finally left. Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Lulang. We just moved here yesterday. Only the Ding and Marquis carriage driver and Zhang Bao know where we live. That housekeeper Lu's information is very fast. Xiao Lulang lightly said, no need to pay attention to him. Saying this, he turned around and went to the study to organize the books. Gu Jiao rubbed her chin. It couldn't be that someone had set their sights on them, right? Who would have the courage to set their sights on her people? The carriage driver drove the carriage out of the alley and came to a corner on the other side. Housekeeper Lu had been waiting for a long time. How is it? Housekeeper Lu asked. The carriage driver said, young master is not willing to accept it. Housekeeper Lu smiled, this young master is more stubborn than I imagined. The carriage driver asked, should we tell the Marquis? Housekeeper Lu faintly smiled. No need. There is no need to trouble the Marquis over such a small matter. Just wait. He will quickly find out how difficult it is for a commoner to survive in the capital. When that day comes, he will obediently return to the manor. The matriarch and the others really slept until noon. When Gu Jiao and Xiao Lulang entered the courtyard, Gu Yan and the other two were soullessly squatting by the well to wash their faces. There was a public well near the alley, but there was also a well in the manor. This saved them the trouble of fetching water from the outside. The millet porridge in the kitchen was ready. Gu Jiao heated up the steamed buns and stir-fried a plate of shredded bamboo shoots and black fungus, a plate of green vegetables and bean sprouts, and a large portion of chives and eggs. Little Jing Kong was not allowed to eat eggs, so Gu Jiao stewed a small pot of tender tofu soup for him. Although little Jing Kong's dishes were all vegetarian, the plate presentation and utensils were more exquisite than other dishes. Gu Jiao pretended that he could not afford to eat them. Little Jing Kong was particularly arrogant to show off his dishes. The people at the table were not greedy at all, but they all pretended to be envious. After the meal, little Jing Kong valiantly went to wash his small bowl. This was a habit cultivated in the temple. He washed his own alms bowl. The others were not idle either. The matriarch went to pick corn cobs, and Gu Yan sat over to pick corn cobs with her. They were the least able to do physical work in the family. They used to be the most pampered people, but they still took the initiative to share the housework within their ability. Gu Xiaoshan went to chop firewood. Xiao Lulang tidied up the kitchen, and Gu Jiao tidied up the two courtyards. She had thought about it. One courtyard was for planting vegetables and raising chickens and puppies, and the other courtyard was for the whole family to move around. There was a laurel tree in the backyard, and little Jing Kong could practice martial arts on the tree. Gu Jiao took a hoe and went to the front courtyard to plow the ground. Little Jing Kong came over with the chickens. Jiao Jiao, I'm going to walk the chickens. Okay. Gu Jiao nodded. Don't go too far. Okay. Little Jing Kong responded. Little Jing Kong used to walk the chickens from the front of the village to the back of the village. Here, he decided to walk from the front of the alley to the back of the alley. Gu Yan's puppy was very envious, and it also wanted to go out for a walk. However, its owner was too lazy to die. After picking the corn cobs, he lay on the rattan chair like a corpse. The puppy swung its butt and followed little Jing Kong out. Little Jing Kong took 7 chickens and a puppy to the end of the alley and was about to turn back. At this time, 2 beggars nearby stared at his dog. The puppy was no longer a baby dog during its confinement period. It had a small fat body, and its meat looked very fresh and tender. The beggar's saliva flowed out. The 2 beggars exchanged glances, and one of them took out a meat bun from his pocket, broke it open, and shook it at the puppy. The puppy was a little stupid, and it was immediately fooled. It eagerly ran over and was immediately put into a sack. Oh! The puppy barked. Little Jing Kong turned his head. Eh? Where's Xiao Ba? That's right, little Jing Kong named Gu Yan's dog Xiao Ba. After the beggars caught the dog, they stared at little Jing Kong's chickens. 7 chickens. It was enough to eat for a few days. The beggars used the same trick to lure the chickens with big meat buns, but the 7 chickens didn't move. The 2 beggars simply grabbed the chickens with their hands. Little Jing Kong was only a 3-year-old child, so no one paid any attention to him. Even more so, no one paid any attention to the 7 half-grown chickens. But when the 2 beggars rushed over, the 7 chickens suddenly flapped their wings and jumped up. They were no longer little chicks that couldn't even jump over the threshold. They could jump as high as half a person, and it was only because the 2 beggars were short. The 7 chicks jumped onto their shoulders and pecked at their heads. Ah! The 2 beggars let out a miserable cry. The sack containing the puppy fell from one of the beggars. Little Jing Kong walked over and opened the sack. Xiao Ba. Xiao Ba was angry that the beggars put a sack over his head, so it decided to fight back. Xiao Ba opened its big mouth and bit down. Woo! It bit its own tail. Little Jing Kong covered his eyes. He couldn't bear to see it. The 2 beggars fell to the ground after being pecked by the 7 chickens, and they ran away. The 7 chickens fluttered their wings and chased after them. They chased them for half a street until little Jing Kong called them. Only then did they come back valiantly and spiritedly. However, just as they were crossing the street, a carriage sped past. The 6 carriages in front of them all stopped. Only little 7 did not stop the carriage. Little Jing Kong ran over with his short legs. The coachman might not notice a chicken, but he could still see a child. The horse carriage was too fast, and it was too late to tighten the reins. Seeing that the child's belly was about to be trampled by the horse's hooves, a long whip came, wrapped around little Jing Kong, and pulled him out of the carriage. The coachman breathed a sigh of relief and continued to move forward. Little Jing Kong was dizzy, and when he came back to his senses, he was sitting in a cold and broad embrace. He looked at the ground. It's so high. The man was sitting on a tall horse, wearing a black brocade robe, holding the reins with one hand and the whip with the other. He held little Jing Kong in his arms with the other hand. Little Jing Kong blinked his big eyes and looked at him. Thank you. The man looked at the chicken in his arms and said coldly, It's just a chicken. Don't do that again. It's called Little Chi. Little Jing Kong handed the chicken to the man. Where are your parents? The man asked. Little Jing Kong didn't have parents. He was abandoned in the temple when he was a few months old, but Jiao Jiao had parents. He thought for a while. My parents passed away. Orphan. The man frowned. Little Jing Kong shook his head like a rattledrum. I have a Jiao Jiao. The man asked, Where do you live? Little Jing Kong pointed. There. The man sent little Jing Kong home. Gu Yen and the others were in the backyard, and Gu Jiao was in the front yard. She had just finished plowing the ground and was using the firewood that Gu Xiaoshun chopped to make a fence. She was wearing the clothes that she used to work in the village, and it was very simple. Jiao Jiao. I was almost hit by a horse carriage just now, and this big brother saved me. Little Jing Kong held the man's hand and walked into the yard. Gu Jiao put down the firewood in her hand and raised her sweaty head to look at the man. The man was tall and strong, and his facial features were cold and resolute. His aura was somewhat unapproachable. However, Gu Jiao didn't know if it was her illusion, but she felt that he looked familiar, as if she had seen him somewhere before. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found on the internet are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/115034740. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 123. Please scan the QR code below to download the app for more interesting content. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. The man turned and left after sending little Jing Kong home. Gu Jiao didn't even have time to thank him. Gu Jiao asked little Jing Kong what happened. When she found out that he jumped out to save a chicken, Gu Jiao also felt that he shouldn't have done that. However, Gu Jiao was not in a hurry to express her opinion. Little Jing Kong frowned deeply and said, "Big brother said that I shouldn't have done that. Does Jiao Jiao also think that I did wrong?" Gu Jiao asked him, "What do you think?" Little Jing Kong puffed up his chest and said, "I think I did the right thing. If I was the one in danger, Jiao Jiao would also jump out to save me." Great, he even used an idiom. Gu Jiao said, "But have you ever thought that maybe little Chi doesn't need you to save it?" Huh? Little Jing Kong didn't understand. Gu Jiao explained patiently, "Little Chi is very sensitive and small. A horse's hooves can't step on it easily, but a horse's hooves can easily step on you." Little Jing Kong suddenly realized something. He wasn't as sensitive as a chicken. Little Jing Kong secretly swore that he would practice even more diligently. He wanted to become more agile and protect his chicken. A few days later, Marquis Gu and his entourage arrived at the capital. The bumpy ride for more than a month made the three of them sick. Gu Jinyu had never sat in such a bad carriage. His whole body was so sore that it didn't feel like his own. Yao She didn't have any complaints. She was very glad that she sat in this carriage. If it were Jiao Jiao and Yen, who had to suffer like this, her heart would ache. "It's been hard on you." Yao She held Gu Jinyu's hand and said guiltily. Gu Jinyu said warmly, "I'm fine. My younger brother's health is not good. He definitely won't be able to take such a jolt. I'm very happy that mother gave the carriage to elder sister and younger brother." Yao She patted Gu Jinyu's hand. "You're so sensible." Marquis Gu helped Yao She and Gu Jinyu off the carriage. The servants in the manor were very happy to see the Marquis and Gu Jinyu, but they could not help but be shocked when they saw Yao She next to the Marquis. Yao She had lived in the villa for 10 years and had not returned to the manor even once. The male servants guarding the door did not recognize her at all. Marquis Gu said coldly, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and greet madam." The few of them looked at each other in dismay, then stepped forward and saluted in a daze. "Greetings, madam?" "What madam? Did the Marquis have a mistress outside?" Yao She had long passed the age where she would feel embarrassed over such a small offense. Also, she had been taking Jiao medication for the past half a year, so her mood and body were both very good. Marquis Gu brought Yao Shi and Gu Jinyu into the manor. The servants had already sent the news to old Madame Gu's Pine Crane courtyard. Old Madame Gu had not seen her son for half a year and was rather worried. She sent someone to call Marquis Gu to Pine Crane courtyard immediately. Marquis Gu had originally planned to bring Yao Shi to pay respects to the old madam tomorrow, but the old madam had urged him, so he could only change his route halfway to Pine Crane courtyard. Old Madame Gu was overjoyed to see her son, but when she saw Yao Shi next to her son, old Madame Gu's smile froze. "Why is she back?" Old Madame Gu asked mildly. Gu Jinyu felt awkward for his mother. "Mother." Marquis Gu glanced at old Madame Gu, indicating that she should not embarrass Yao Shi like this. Old Madame Gu pretended not to see. Yao Shi saluted properly. "Greetings, mother." Gu Jinyu also saluted. "Greetings, grandmother." Old Madame Gu had originally found Gu Jinyu pleasing to the eye, but now that Yao Shi was here, she started to dislike Gu Jinyu as well. Yao Shi lived with Gu Yan at the Hot Springs Villa. Now that Yao Shi had returned, but Gu Yan was nowhere to be seen, old Madame Gu did not even think to ask. Marquis Gu tried to smooth things over. "Mother, your son has been running around and is exhausted. I will come to pay respects to you tomorrow." He did not say that Yao Shi and Gu Jinyu were tired, but only that he was tired. How could old Madame Gu not let her own son rest? This was the reason why old Madame Gu disliked Yao Shi. It was not entirely because Yao Shi did not come from a good family, but more so because as long as Yao Shi was here, her son seemed to be possessed and did not care about anyone. Marquis Gu pretended not to understand old Madame Gu's displeasure. He chuckled and said, "Your son will leave first." He then led Yao Shi and Gu Jinyu out of Pine Crane courtyard. The three of them had just stepped over the threshold when they bumped into a woman dressed in luxurious clothes and jewels. The woman looked at the three of them, and a trace of surprise flashed in her eyes, but she quickly bowed and said, "Master, I'm here to greet you." "Madam." "Miss." Marquis Gu frowned. "Concubine Ling, why are you here?" The woman called Concubine Ling smiled and said, "I am here to deliver ginseng soup to mother." Did she need to dress up like this to deliver ginseng soup to old madam? Even Gu Jinyu could tell that she was here to stop Marquis Gu. Old Madame Gu's surname was Ling. The former Madame Marquis was old Madame Gu's niece. Concubine Ling was the former Madame Marquis's stepsister and could be considered old Madame Gu's niece. When Madame Ling died of illness, Marquis Gu married Yao Shi. Old Madame Gu was worried that Marquis Gu would not love his three sons with his ex-wife after he had a new lover, so she made the decision to take Concubine Ling as a concubine. Marquis Gu did not like Concubine Ling, but with old Madame Gu's support, Concubine Ling's life in the manor was very good. Especially after Yao Shi moved to the mountain villa with Gu Yan, Concubine Ling was about to become the official madam of the manor. In addition, she was the aunt of the three young masters, so the three young masters were much closer to her than to Yao Shi. "Then go send her off," Marquis Gu said faintly and left with Yao Shi. The next day, Yao Shi said that she was sick and did not go to pay respects to old Madame Gu. Nanny Fong advised Yao Shi, "Madam, why do you have to do this? You should be thorough in your etiquette so that people won't gossip." Yao Shi smiled bitterly. "No matter how thorough I am, there will always be people who will find fault with me. If I don't go, old madam will not be bothered by it." Marquis Gu and Gu Jinyu went to Pine Crane courtyard. Hearing that Yao Shi was sick, old Madame Gu snorted coldly. "She just doesn't want to see me." Marquis Gu hurriedly said, "Look at what you're saying. How could Yao not want to see you? Look, these gifts were all personally prepared by her. She respects you the most in her heart." The gifts were indeed chosen by Yao Shi and she had put in a lot of effort. However, Yao Shi did not do it for herself. She did it to prevent old Madame Gu from venting her anger on Gu Jinyu. Old Madame Gu pursed her lips. She did not like Yao Shi. It was good that Yao Shi did not come. She would not be annoyed when she saw her. "Where's Yen? Old Madame Gu finally asked about Gu Yen. Why didn't he come with you? Marquis Gu did not dare to say that Gu Yen had arrived in the capital long ago. He smiled and said, Yen's health is not good. I told him to come slowly. There are doctors accompanying him. And Old Madame Gu did not ask further. Marquis Gu said, I'll bring Jinyu into the palace in a moment to pay respects to your ladyship. At the mention of Consort Shu, Old Madame Gu looked at Gu Jinyu with more kindness. That's good. Your aunt has been thinking about you for a long time. She sent people to the manor to ask about you several times. Gu Jinyu smiled as if relieved of a burden. Jinyu also misses aunt very much. As they spoke, a servant came to report that the second and third young masters had arrived. Old Madame Gu's face immediately showed unconcealable affection. If one were to ask who Old Madame Gu doted on the most, it would be none other than her 3 precious grandsons. Even her own son, Marquis Gu, did not have as much weight as her grandsons in her heart. Gu Chengfeng and Gu Chenglin drew the curtain and entered. Grandmother. Father. The two cupped their hands and bowed. Gu Jinyu stood up and bowed to her 2 elder brothers. Second brother, third brother. Gu Chenglin glanced at her indifferently. Gu Chengfeng said, No need to be so courteous. His words were polite, but his tone was very distant. Gu Jinyu was used to it. Her brothers did not target her, but her mother. As long as it was her mother's child, her brothers would not like them. Where's your eldest brother? Why don't I see him? Old Madame Gu asked. Gu Chengfeng said, Eldest brother came back very late last night. He went to the army camp early in the morning. It was not easy to be the eldest grandson of Marquis Ding and Fu. He was the heir of the Marquis Fu. He shouldered the rise and fall of the Marquis Fu. It was harder than other children. Old Madame Gu's heart ached for her grandson, but she could not really drag him back from the army camp. Marquis Gu saw that it was about time to cut to the chase. He cleared his throat and said to Old Madame Gu, Mother, I have something to tell you. What is it? Old Madame Gu looked at him in confusion. Marquis Gu glanced at Gu Jinyu and took a deep breath. He said solemnly, It's about the background of the 2 children. Gu Jiao tidied up the house for a few days and finally fixed up the 2 courtyards. She planted green onions, rapeseed and lettuce in the small vegetable garden. She also planted some peas at little Jing Kong's request. The small vegetable garden only took up half of the courtyard on the left side. Gu Jiao was thinking of building a grape trellis on the right side and planting some gourds. Next year, she would plant some grapes and loofah during the sowing season. Xiao Lulang had already received the waist tag of the Imperial College and had also signed little Jing Kong up. The Imperial College was also divided into classes. According to their grades and age, they were divided into 4 classes: Heaven, Earth, Black, and Yellow. Outside of these 4 classes, there was also a very special class that specially recruited talented children. It was somewhat similar to the prodigy class in Gu Jiao's previous life. This class was only opened a few years ago. Xiao Lulang had never attended it when he was young. Gu Jiao stopped cutting vegetables. Wasn't the Imperial College closed for a few years? The elementary school isn't closed? Xiao Lulang added some firewood to the stove. Strictly speaking, the elementary school of the Imperial College does not completely belong to the Imperial College. It is separated from the Imperial College by an alley. When His Majesty closed the Imperial College, he did not mention anything about the elementary school. The elementary school took advantage of this loophole and has been open ever since. The elementary school had been open for a few years. It should be quite experienced in teaching prodigies. Gu Jiao asked, What's the entrance exam about? Xiao Lulang said, Based on the results of the exams in previous years, the main exam is literacy, scripture writing, and arithmetic. Gu Jiao hummed. There's no problem with these small clearances. Xiao Lulang nodded. However, to be safe, the 2 of them still spent a lot of money to buy the exam questions from previous years for little Jing Kong to do. Little Jing Kong's accuracy was very high, but his handwriting was slow and ugly. It was extremely ugly. Thus, Little Clear Sky's daily schedule had an additional item: writing calligraphy. Little Jing Kong was not happy. He suspected that his bad brother-in-law was depriving him of the joy of being a child. Xiao Lulang said to him, "Jiao Jiao also practices calligraphy every day. You two can practice together." Little Jing Kong happily agreed when he thought about being alone with Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao had not dreamed for a long time. The last time she had a dream was before Xiao Lulang went to the provincial urban and rural examination. It had been 4 months since then. She had almost forgotten that she could dream. However, that night, when she returned to her room after practicing calligraphy with Little Jing Kong, she soon fell into a strange dream. The reason why it was strange was because the person who appeared in her dream was neither Xiao Lulang nor herself. It was the man who saved Little Jing Kong, whom she had almost forgotten. The man was wearing green armor and a blood-red cloak. He was sitting on a majestic warhorse. When the man passed by a secluded alley, he was ambushed. The assassins were all first-class masters. Even so, they were still no match for the man. Just when the man was about to win, one of the assassins suddenly threw out a child and stabbed the child with his sword. In order to save the child, the man's right arm was cut off by the assassin. The assassin's sword was highly poisonous. Although the man's life was saved, his right arm was crippled. Strictly speaking, this assassination had something to do with Little Jing Kong. This group of assassins had been secretly watching the man for a long time. They did not dare to make a move until they accidentally saw the man giving birth to a defenseless child. They decided to do the same thing, which led to the subsequent assassination. When Gu Jiao woke up, she had a strange expression on her face. She was getting more and more confused about her dream. Could she dream of people who were not related to her? However, no matter what, he had saved Little Jing Kong's life. Moreover, the assassination was inspired by him saving Little Jing Kong. She could not sit back and do nothing. The assassination would take place tomorrow evening. As for the location, she remembered that there was a lucky cloud in near where the man was assassinated. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels will be read for free. You can find all the novels that you can't find online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_826/115031802. HTML Genius memorized this website's address: www.zhbqg.com. Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 124. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. Please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. You can find all the novels that you can't find online. The next morning, she found Xiao Lulang and asked him where the Lucky Cloud Tavern was. Xiao Lulang was puzzled. Where did you hear about the Lucky Cloud Tavern? Gu Jiao's expression didn't change. I heard about it when I went to the market yesterday. Isn't the food in that tavern delicious? Xiao Lulang said seriously, it's a shady tavern. Huh? Gu Jiao was surprised. Xiao Lulang explained, on the surface, it's an inn, but in reality, it's a gambling den. Many people have been fooled there, so don't be fooled. Xiao Lulang firmly believed that Gu Jiao was fooled by someone with ulterior motives. He refused to tell her where the Lucky Cloud Tavern was. Gu Jiao scratched her head and had to think of another way. After breakfast, Xiao Lulang went to find a suitable private school for Gu Yan and Gu Xiaoshun. Gu Jiao went to the market with the excuse of buying groceries. She directly hired a carriage and said, "Go to the Lucky Cloud Tavern." The carriage driver said, "The Lucky Cloud Tavern is quite far. Miss, Are you in a hurry? If you're not, please wait for a moment. I'll get another customer. I'm in a hurry, Gu Jiao said. Then it'll cost 200 copper coins. The carriage driver said. The Lucky Cloud Tavern was on the other side of the capital. His horse was not a good horse. It would take him more than half a day to go there and back, so he might not be able to get another customer. Okay. Gu Jiao agreed. The carriage driver was quite familiar with the capital's terrain, so he chose the nearest road. However, he didn't know what day it was, but there were 2 important people on the road, so all the people had to avoid them. When Gu Jiao arrived at the Lucky Cloud Tavern, the assassination had already begun. Gu Jiao heard the movement in the alley and jumped off the carriage without saying a word. She went around the other end of the alley. Both sides were in the midst of a fierce battle and did not notice that a thin and small figure had sneaked behind them. Gu Jiao found the sack hidden in the corner and carried the unconscious child out. Then, she found a large stone and put it inside. The assassins were no match for the man. They exchanged glances with each other and were about to start their dirty tricks. One of them picked up the sack with his sword and threw it at the man. The huge sword chi split open the sack and the things hidden inside flew out. The assassins were all dumbfounded. Wasn't it the child's? How did it become a rock? The man was also puzzled. What kind of move was this? Was this the latest bewitching technique? Using stones? The man effortlessly split the rock into 2 halves. The best time for the assassination had passed. The assassins knew that they had no chance to kill the man today, so they did not continue fighting. After a few feints, they ran away one after another. The man did not chase after them. He put away his sword and was about to get on his horse when his ears suddenly twitched. He looked at the alley warily and asked, "Who is it?" His 5 senses were too sharp for him to be discovered. Gu Jiao came out from behind the pillar with the unconscious child in her arms. "It's me." The man recognized Gu Jiao. "Why are you here?" Gu Jiao shrugged. The man's gaze fell on the child in her arms. At first glance, it looked like the little guy from the other day. However, when he looked closer, he realized that the child had a buzz cut. The child's hair was very long and tied up. Moreover, the child's appearance was not as cute as the little guy from the other day. The man pondered for a moment and thought of the stone that flew out of the sack. He seemed to remember that the assassins were also very surprised at that time. Could it be? The man looked at Gu Jiao and asked suspiciously, "Did you swap the child out?" "Yes." Gu Jiao did not deny it. "I happened to pass by and saw them with a child. So, I followed them. Coincidentally, they were fighting with you, so I took the child out." She said it casually, but the man knew that the group of assassins were not ordinary. It was very difficult to follow them without being discovered. He looked at Gu Jiao with even more suspicion. "If I remember correctly, you live near the Imperial College. This place is in the east and the Imperial College is in the west. Why did you pass by here? What are you doing here?" Gu Jiao paused and looked at Shongyun in not far away. Gambling?" The man was speechless. It was fine if she did not want to tell him. Of course, the man did not know that Gu Jiao came specially to save him. While the 2 of them were talking, the child's parents caught up with them. My son. My son." The woman burst into tears. Gu Jiao returned the child to her and said, "He took a little knockout drug. It's not a big dose, so he'll be fine. He'll wake up when it's dark." "Thank you, miss. Thank you, miss." The woman held the child and kowtowed to Gu Jiao. Her husband also knelt down and kowtowed. Gu Jiao looked at the man and said, "You don't have to thank me. Thank him. He was the one who chased the assassins away." The 2 of them kowtowed to the man again. After the 2 of them left, the man was about to leave as well. He grabbed the reins of the horse with one hand and held the saddle with the other. Just as he was about to get on the horse, Gu Jiao stopped him. "Don't you need to treat your wound?" The man's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of vigilance. He drew his sword and pressed it against Gu Jiao's neck. "Who are you? How do you know that I'm injured? Even the servants in the residence did not know that he was injured. Gu Jiao did not even look at the sword against her neck. She just calmly glanced at the man's waist and said, "You're bleeding." The man lowered his head to look. The clothes around his waist were soaked with blood and there was a large patch of red. Gu Jiao said, "Be careful of losing too much blood." This amount of blood, if it was a normal person, they would have already fainted. He had been fighting for a long time. Gu Jiao looked around. There was no one in the alley. She simply put down the small basket and took out a small medicine box. She said to the man, "Lift up your clothes and let me see." The man asked, "What do you want to do?" Gu Jiao lightly said, "I'm going to stop your bleeding." The man knit his brows. Gu Jiao did not want to open the medicine box in front of him. She gave him a look and said, "Turn around and lift up your clothes." "Are you a doctor?" the man asked. "Yes, I am." "Don't talk nonsense. You fight so well. How can a doctor be so wishy-washy?" Gu Jiao realized that the people here were more or less afraid of treatment. Of course, it could also be because they did not trust her enough. The man was a little hesitant. It was not that he did not trust Gu Jiao, but Gu Jiao was a woman. How could he lift up his clothes in front of a woman? Gu Jiao sighed. If he was not going to do it, then she would. She walked behind the man, took off his armor, and lifted up his shirt. The man did not react at all. "It was just stitched up, right?" Gu Jiao looked at the wound. "It's torn. It needs to be stitched up again." The man's wound was stitched up by the medical officer in the military camp. Few doctors among the people were proficient in this kind of surgery. The man still had some doubts about Gu Jiao's medical skills. But looking at Gu Jiao's serious face, he could not refuse in the end. Gu Jiao said, "Turn around." The wound extended from the man's back to his right waist. It was indeed easier to stitch it up if he turned around. The man frowned and turned around. "The anesthetic has run out." Gu Jiao did not understand why it had not been replenished until now. Gu Jiao closed the box and waited for a while. She silently repeated the words anesthetic in her mind. But there was still no anesthetic after she opened the box. Gu Jiao said to him, "I can only stitch it up for you. Bear with it." The man was stunned. He said to Gu Jiao, "Is it an anesthetic? I don't use that. You can stitch it up." Gu Jiao did not explain the difference between local anesthesia and anesthetic. She stitched up his wound carefully. He did not make a sound during the entire process. He was a tough guy. But the two of them did not expect that when she was about to stitch up the wound, an assassin would turn back. The assassin had a bow in his hand. He knocked 5 arrows in a row. The man did not have time to react. He turned around and protected Gu Jiao with his arms. He planned to use his body to take the arrows. He saw Gu Jiao's eyes. They were calm and cold, filled with a flash of killing intent. Gu Jiao pulled out the dagger at his waist. With a sudden swing, she threw it at the assassin's chest. The assassin groaned and fell from the roof. His bow also fell to the ground. The man turned around in disbelief. Gu Jiao calmly squatted down and continued stitching up the man's wound. "It's done," Gu Jiao said. The man looked at Gu Jiao in a daze. He was still in a state of great shock. Gu Jiao blinked her eyes and looked at him. She suddenly realized, "Yes, I almost forgot about this." As she said this, she took out a bottle of medicine that she had concocted and handed it to him. "It's better than your medicine." Gu Jiao was not in a blindfolded contest. She had smelled the medicine when she was stitching up his wound. She carefully identified the ingredients and confirmed that it was not as good as her medicine. The man still had a look of disbelief. Was it not over yet? Gu Jiao looked at the assassin not far away. "He's not dead. We can still capture him and interrogate him. Or, do you want to arrest me?" "No." The man finally came back to his senses. "You were defending yourself. If you want to arrest someone, you should be arresting them." "Oh, then I'm leaving." Gu Jiao clapped her hands and carried the small basket on her back. She walked out of the alley with a calm expression. Gu Jiao had given the man too much shock. Even the assassins could not cause a ripple in his heart. He hesitated for a moment, but still urged his horse to catch up with her. "I'll send you home." Gu Jiao tilted her head and looked at him. The man paused. "I also live in the direction of the Imperial College. It's on the way. Up to you." Gu Jiao arrived at Lucky Cloud Inn and got into the carriage that she had hired from the market. The man was actually worried that the assassins had not gone far and had their eyes on Gu Jiao. That was why he offered to send her home. Fortunately, there were no signs of the assassins until they arrived at Gu Jiao's house. They probably did not catch up with her. That was good. He did not want to implicate her. Gu Jiao paid the fare, and the coachman drove the carriage away. The man also left. "Goodbye." Gu Jiao nodded. "Goodbye." Jiao Jiao. Dear brother. Little Jing Kong saw the two of them through the crack of the door and ran over. He hid his little hands tightly behind his back to prevent Gu Jiao from seeing them. He tilted his head and asked, "Jiao Jiao, why did you come back with dear brother? Is dear brother here to visit our house?" His behavior reminded the man of Gu Jiao's behavior just now. They were indeed a family. Even their words and actions were so similar. Gu Jiao patted his little head and said, "Dear brother is just passing by." "Oh." Little Jing Kong thought for a while, moved a step towards the door, and said, "Then I'll talk to dear brother for a while." "Okay." Gu Jiao pretended not to see that he was hiding something in his hands. After Gu Jiao entered the house, the man asked Little Jing Kong, "What are you hiding in your hands?" Little Jing Kong took out his little hands from behind his back and revealed a small box. He said quietly, "Jiao Jiao's birthday is coming soon. I'm preparing a gift for Jiao Jiao. This is the first birthday I'm celebrating with Jiao Jiao. I want to give her a surprise. I'm afraid that she has already seen through your surprise, little guy." Little Jing Kong had a lot to say to the person he liked. He turned into a little loudspeaker again and kept blabbering. The man didn't feel annoyed at all. He only felt that this child was very cute. He was very puzzled. How did a woman who didn't even blink when killing someone raise such a naive and ignorant little guy? She must have protected him very well, he thought. Little Jing Kong's blabbering sounds echoed in his ears. The smell of food wafted from the courtyard. The man felt a trace of home in front of this unfamiliar house for the first time. The man said goodbye to Little Jing Kong and returned to the house. As soon as he stepped through the gate, a clever and delicate manservant rushed over with a hurried expression. Why did you come back so late? In the few days that you weren't in the residence, something big happened in our residence." "What happened?" the man asked. Sigh. The servant scratched his head and cheeks. He had been holding it in for a few days, but he suddenly didn't know where to start. The man ignored him and entered the house coldly. The servant chased after him. "It's about the second madam. She lost the child in the past. The young miss in our house isn't the master's flesh and blood. The real young miss is outside and refuses to come back. I heard. She grew up in the countryside. She's timid and hasn't seen the world. She doesn't dare to come to the house." The matter of Gu Jiao and Gu Yen coming to the capital couldn't be covered up. Both of them refused to return to the house, so there were many guesses in the house. The servant sighed. After so long, it turns out that the master doted on the wrong person. She's not your biological sister." Gu Chongqing's eyes were cold. "I don't have a sister. I only have 2 younger brothers." Gu Chongqing wouldn't recognize Yao Shi. He also wouldn't recognize the 2 children that Yao Shi had with his father. Digression. And what a big flag. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www. ZHHBQG. com/89642_896422826/115004119. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com. BQ mobile reading website. M. ZHHBQG.com. Chapter 125. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. Gu Chongqing's body was injured. After returning to the manor, he did not alarm anyone. First, he had a servant call the manor doctor to his courtyard. The manor doctor was already accustomed to Gu Chongqing's injuries. The heir was a person who did not care for his life. It would be abnormal if he didn't have some injuries when he came back. However, after examining the condition of the wound, the manor doctor was shocked. "Heir, may I ask who stitched it up for you?" Gu Chongqing asked. "What is it?" The military camp doctor stitched it up once and the doctor outside stitched it up once. "Is there a problem?" The manor doctor said, "No, it was stitched up very well. I have never seen anyone who could treat a torn wound so well." "Which doctor was it?" Hearing the manor doctor say this, Gu Chongqing had an idea. "You can withdraw. Don't spread the news of my injuries. This small one understands." He had been the manor doctor for a few days and understood this heir's habits. He did not like to make a big fuss and cause the entire manor to panic. After the manor doctor withdrew, the servant brought over a basin of hot water and a set of clean clothes. Earlier, in order to not attract attention, he had used a cloak to cover the wound. Now, even the cloak was stained with blood. The servant helped Gu Chongqing take off his clothes while muttering, "Heir, how did you get injured this time? Ever since you were transferred to General Ran's command, you have been injured more than before. Is General Ran especially scary? How can there be no injuries when practicing martial arts? General Ran's rule is strict. This is a good thing. It is Zhao country's fortune. Don't say these words again in the future." "Oh." The servant muffled a response. He put the blood-stained cloak into the basket and began to take off his outer and inner robes. "That's right, heir. Did you call the manor doctor over because you were worried? In the past, after you were treated in the military camp, you would not let the manor doctor see you a second time. Since you were worried about that person's medical skills, why did you let him treat you?" "That's right. Why did he let her treat him?" Gu Chongqing couldn't answer either. She did not look very old and seemed to be about the same age as Gu Jinyu. It would be good if a girl of her age did not cry out in fright when she saw such a hideous injury, but she could still calmly stitch it up for him. Not only that, she had also killed an assassin. After killing him, she continued to stitch him up as if nothing had happened. He had lived for 20 years, but this was the first time he had seen such a strange woman. His small body seemed to contain a great amount of power. "Your Highness, Concubine Ling wants to see you," a maid outside the door reported. The manservant looked at him and said, "Your Highness is injured. Why don't I go and help her?" "No need." Gu Chongqing changed into clean clothes and went to the flower hall to see Concubine Ling. Concubine Ling was Madame Little Ling's younger sister. She did not look much like Madame Little Ling. She was more beautiful than Madame Little Ling, but unfortunately, neither she nor Madame Little Ling could compare to Madame Yao. Perhaps it was not only because Concubine Ling had the same bloodline as Madame Little Ling, but also because Concubine Ling had some of Madame Little Ling's desolation back then. Gu Chongqing was still polite to her. Gu Chongqing said, "It's so late. Concubine Ling, haven't you slept yet?" Concubine Ling smiled. "I'm old now. I don't always feel sleepy like when I was young. It's enough to sleep for 6 to 4 hours a day. These days, you always go out early and come back late. I haven't seen you for a long time, so I wanted to come and see you." Gu Chongqing said, I've made you worry. Concubine Ling said earnestly, don't be too tired. You still have to take care of your body. There will be a long way to go in the manor, but you can't let anything happen to your body. I know. Although he said so, Gu Chongqing didn't dare to forget the old duke's instructions before he left. He was the eldest grandson and also the eldest brother. He had the old madam, younger brothers and sisters, and the manor's 100 years of history. He had to support the entire manor even if he had to kneel. After the greetings, Concubine Ling didn't have the intention to leave. Gu Chongqing asked, is there anything else, Concubine Ling? Concubine Ling twirled the handkerchief in her hand and smiled embarrassedly. It's like this. Madam has returned to the manor. You must have heard about her. Gu Chongqing looked at Concubine Ling. Concubine Ling, are you talking about the 2 children being swapped? Concubine Ling was slightly stunned. You know? Gu Chongqing said, I just found out. Concubine Ling glanced at the manservant standing behind Gu Chongqing and understood. She said, although Jinyu isn't your father's biological child, she has been raised in our manor for many years. We have developed feelings for her. If we send her away, not only will your father and madam be reluctant, even the old madam will be reluctant. Gu Chongqing didn't think much about this matter. He didn't care, so he didn't fuss about it. Concubine Ling smiled warmly. Jinyu's birthday is coming soon. Do you need me to prepare a birthday gift for her? Gu Chongqing said, Concubine Ling, just arrange it like in the past. Although he didn't recognize Gu Jinyu as his sister, he wouldn't deliberately embarrass her. He didn't have the hobby of bullying a young girl. Concubine Ling continued, Yen also came to the capital. As for Yen and that child, should we also send a birthday gift to each of them? Gu Yen moved to the villa before she was 4 years old. They hadn't seen each other for 10 years. Gu Chongqing actually couldn't remember what Gu Yen looked like. He nodded, if you can send it, then send it together. It was just a matter of face. Concubine Ling smiled, okay, I'll prepare the gift for your father and let him bring it over. Gu Chongqing didn't have any objections. Concubine Ling, you can make the decision for such a small matter. Concubine Ling reminded him to take care of his body before leaving. Gu Chongqing knew how badly injured he was. The pain wouldn't go away for 3 to 5 days. However, he slept for a night. When he woke up the next day, he didn't feel much pain. He applied some of the medicine that Gu Jiao gave him. It was cool and the pain in his wound lessened. Gu Chongqing felt that it was very magical. Where did that girl's medical skills come from? She was actually better than the medical officer in the military camp. There was no training for the next 2 days, but Gu Chongqing still decided to go to the military camp. When he passed by Chuehua Pavilion, he happened to bump into Gu Jinyu accompanying Yao Shi for a walk in the garden. He saw the other, and the other also saw him. The scene was slightly awkward. When Yao Shi had first married into the Marquis Fu, Gu Chongqing hadn't even been 10 years old. He was a half-grown brat, and he had just lost his mother. His heart was filled with resentment and he had spoken ill of Yao Shi many times. He had even threatened to chase Yao Shi out. In this Fu, if there was him, there would be no Yao Shi. If there was Yao Shi, there would be no him. He had even complained about Yao Shi in front of his grandfather and grandmother. Now that he was older, he would not be as insensible as he had been when he was young. However, he would not call Yao Shi mother. Not in this lifetime. Yao Shi nodded from afar. He also raised his hands in a faint greeting. They greeted each other politely and distantly. Logically, this awkward encounter should have ended, but Gu Jinyu suddenly walked down the pavilion and came in front of Gu Chongqing. He curtsied and said, "Eldest brother, good morning." "Good morning." Gu Chongqing's expression was indifferent. Gu Jinyu didn't seem to care. He raised a sweet smile and said, "Eldest brother, it will be my birthday in a few days. Will eldest brother return to the Fu on that day?" Without waiting for Gu Chongqing to speak, Gu Jinyu continued, "Nyong said that she will also come. I hope that eldest brother will also come." Facing those eyes that were smiling but could not hide their unease, Gu Chongqing did not reject him as thoroughly as he usually did. "I will return when I have time." Gu Jinyu smiled. "Many thanks, eldest brother." Gu Chongqing said coldly, "Don't thank me too early. I might not have time." With that, he brushed past Gu Jinyu and left without looking back. Gu Jinyu thought to herself, it seemed that not being mother's child made eldest brother less angry at her. Before returning to the capital, she had worried that she would be looked down upon by the world after her identity was exposed. In the end, this was not the case. Imperial concubine Shu liked her because of her talent. Old Madam liked her because Imperial concubine Shu also liked her. What did it matter if she was father's flesh and blood? Once she became a county princess and had eldest brother's love, who would dare to look down on her in the future? Alright, there was also Royal Prince N. Last time when she entered the palace, she was so focused on solving problems for the fifth prince that she forgot to mention Royal Prince N. This coming-of-age banquet was a great opportunity to meet Royal Prince N. After taking a walk, Gu Jinyu found Marquis Gu and told him her thoughts. Marquis Gu was shocked. "What? Send an invitation to Royal Prince N? That's not appropriate, right? We are not familiar with Royal Prince N. He did not dare to rush to establish a relationship with Royal Prince and just because he had taken in Royal Prince N and his sister for a few nights. Putting aside the interests between the major powers, Royal Prince N alone was not someone he could establish a relationship with. The old Marquis might have some face. After all, the old Marquis had military achievements. But he was not his father. Gu Jinyu said confidently, "Father, trust me. The royal prince will definitely come." Marquis Gu could not resist his daughter's coaxing. In a moment of impulse, he sent the invitation to Royal Prince An. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/896428286/115000519. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.